welcome to episode 46 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills and I'm joined once again by Graham Raddings. If you have not listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. Last week we looked at our second batch of games from issue 22 of Zap 64, which we are in no way affiliated with, and were tortured by Tarzan, slapped around the gob by Scooby-Doo, and horrified by Howard the Duck. This week, we conclude our look at the games in February 1987, along with a special excerpt from our interview with none other than John Hare from our Patreon channel. So you've got that to look forward to. But before that, Graham, tell us what we have going on this month.
In this painfully overpriced, tacky seaside gift shop full of branded unicorns, keyrings and runic pebbles of an episode, we attempt a blatant castle break-in and burglary while trying to evade a 6-foot lizard in the supremely challenging Escape from Singe's Castle, shake our crime-solving fists at the blocky crap sandwich that is Cobra, and deftly navigate the grey-on-grey space multi-storey car parks of the somewhat interesting Sigma 7. We also wonder what on earth is going on in the over-rotational and orbitally confusing Defcom. Consider if we might have found an actual reasonably good arcade conversion with Terra Cresta before grabbing our fins, thrusters, boards and trunks for a trip to the blocky and utterly pointless beach in the salty Surf Champ. If that collection of keyrings with your name on hasn't quite hit the mark and you feel a personalised bookmark would have been a better keepsake, we also climb aboard the USS Simulator, ring the bell and shout full ahead as we prepare for the Battle of the Disk Drive in the intense Destroyer, gather our intel, grab our best dodgy mates and plan a step-by-step heist in the brilliantly clever They Stole a Million, shout halt before becoming judge, jury and executioner for the gargantuan game turd that is Judge Dredd, and revisit familiar slow monocolour isometric dullness in the tiresome Molecule Man. On top of that, we also head into more slow-moving vector crap with yet another deport in the uninspiring Arctic Fox, explore the horned-hatted troubles of a Nordic Rambo in the alarmingly familiar world of the Vikings, shout "Begone, foul demon!" at the ghost plane-strewn world of the inherently stupid 1943 1 year later, before finally slipping into our best gold latex underpants, ripping off our vests and having a good old grapple in the churlish Championship Wrestling. Oh my, some of these games are so stunningly bad you'll get intense brain strain and the worst ice shits you've ever had. AD, it will wear off eventually, but you'll need some new pants and possibly glasses. That's for sure.
There are just too many games. I don't know what's going on. There's something in the water and there are too many games, which has caused this triple episode, which has just ruined the layout on the website, and it's all just a nightmare. Bloody game developers in 1987. They got nothing better to do.
Well, the question is, what were they doing in late 1986? I think they were all just in their sheds, just beavering away with their games.
Do you reckon, was it really cold? Was it a cold winter?
I don't know, but it didn't help the bloody programming skills, did it? It's been so cold their fingers were shivering on the numbers because they got some of them digits went badly wrong.
Very badly wrong, but hopefully maybe not wrong for our first game. Because Graham, we went into the castle first of all and we fought the dragon and we went into its lair and we rescued Princess Daphne. Now we must get out. So Graham, enlighten us, tell us all about how we escape from Singe's castle.
It's interesting, actually, Escape from Singe's Castle, because in reality, you actually decide to go back to Singe's Castle. Singe's Castle. So it should really be called Return to Singe's Castle if it was honest about it. Because
it should be, yes.
Because that's the thing. So I think it's what's important to note initially that this isn't based on the official arcade of Dragon's Lair 2 Time Warp. This is something different. So this is, I suppose you could call it a sidequel of sorts. So it's set after the first game. So it's after Singe's Castle. And obviously, as you say, you're playing the same characters. So you're playing Dirk the Daring. Only this time, you're just going back into the castle because you want, get some more treasure. And there's a sort of a very famous treasure in there, I believe, which is... I think it's the Treasure of All Treasures. I can't remember the official name for it now. But essentially, anyway, you're going in there to sort of get this super treasure out.
That's the laziest name for a treasure ever.
I don't think it is that. I'm sure it has a proper name, but I could be wrong. There's been that many games in February that involve treasure in one way or other, and it's been weird.
I'll tell you I'll find out.
Okay, so this has been created by Software Projects under the guise of John Darnell and Steve Bertolds, with graphics by Martin McDonald and Nicole Bakerloff. And of course, it features some classic Rob Hubbard music in there as well. Some great little music in here, great tunes.
According to the review, he's going to get a magical pot of gold which gives unlimited wealth to its owner. That's what he's after.
There you go. So a pot of gold. He's after his pot of gold. Okay, so this is a cycle, and you have to basically go through. There's been 8 more levels that have been designed in this, and you've taken Dirk into those. Now, these are loosely based on 8 levels that actually were in the original Dragon's Lair arcade, because obviously the Dragon's Lair arcade port that we spoke about before, the original one, took some of the levels of Dragon's Lair, not all of them, kind of did its thing with them and 8-bitted them and made them into this kind of version. And then we realized actually that was actually based on another 8-bit machine version. So none of those early 8-bit ones were based on an actual arcade version of sorts. And this is no different to that. But what it does here, I suppose, is it embraces the logic of that and actually does what they should have done in the first place, which is to take those and just make some really good mini games out of them. Now, the problem with the original one is it didn't do that. The mini games are actually pretty rubbish. This one is a oral and graphical, a bit more of a powerhouse. I think they've learned lessons. I think that's the one thing I would say about this game is that they've learned lessons from their first attempt. So this one pretty much shouts at you when it starts with the opening music and everything else. So you've got 8 levels in here. That is, each one is, it's kind of plays the same. So you've got like you've got to move the joystick in certain ways and jump at certain times and avoid certain things. And it's basically they're like trial games really. And they are really hard. So you start off in the river caves where you've got to sort of float down in a riverboat, avoiding the rocks by steering in the right directions and avoiding some of these deadly whirlpools. I think this is one of the hardest stages of the whole game because it's really hard. You've got to do that 14 times without one mistake. Because if you make a mistake, you die. Thankfully, by the way, in that crazy dying screen, that where he crumbles into the bones and then jumps back, you can actually skip that in this one. Another lesson they've learned. So assuming that you do ever make it through that, past the 14 screens without a flaw, you then go to Boulder Alley, which is where you're being chased, Indiana Jones style, by a giant boulder. Really nice graphics and music and the way it all runs. Really, really nice game. And you've got to sort of avoid the obstacles as you run towards the screen. It's a very nice effect in that. Again, rock hard. If you get past that, Throne Room is the next step. Where you've got deadly magic traps. That is very similar to sort of, it's side steps and sword slashes, very similar to the kind of classic arcade style sequences. And graphically, by the way, all these have upped the ante, so the graphics are looking quite nice in this version. Similar kind of size of Dirk when he's on those levels, but the main Dirk sprite, when you get to those, and some of the other graphics have all been really quite nicely rendered and quite nicely drawn, and the controls well realised. They're very responsive, albeit really hard. After the Throne Room, Dungeons of the Lizard King, so you're pretty close to your goal at this point. But the Lizard King's laid a trap and he stole your sword and put it near the pot of gold. So now you've got to sort of navigate this like maze. I found this level quite frustrating actually in there because it's one of those sort of multi-platform, go through a door and you appear in kind of a similar thing and a bit of running around. And eventually, if you have to avoid the Lizard King who periodically runs up to you and hits you on the head with his scepter. Now, the sprites here are also very good. Again, really, really great music. One of my favourite bits. After that, you've got the magical flying horse, where you're riding on a flying horse, obviously. Got to evade rocks. Similar in sense to the river caves, but on a flying horse and avoiding rocks. Then you've got Doom Dungeon, which is another sort of do those things in the correct sequence and Dirk will survive. Again, leaning on the arcade. Mystic Mosaic is the one after that, or at least one of those, where you cross the room to get to one of 2 possible exits, only one of which leads to safety. There's a catch. The floor is like a magical mosaic, which constantly changes shape in the different patterns. And if you get past that, you get mud monsters, and you've got to try and escape. But I'm using this magic bottle, but it's in a certain long way from where you start in that scene, and you've got to sort of find your way across the gap and jump into the canyon and do stuff. So there's 8 quite accomplished mini games there, all of them really hard. But all of them, at least with the progression, with the graphics, and certainly with the audio, to be able to really feel a bit more like a Dragon's Lair game. Now, as much as it's called the wrong thing, because it's not, I suppose you're escaping, but you chose to go in there. I don't quite know how that works, but... So everything's been upped in terms of quality and game ante here. So the graphics and the game design and all of that has been significantly revamped and altered, and it's made to look good. This is a good looking game. You can skip the death sequences. They've learned lessons from the first one, and the music is genuinely brilliant for this. It's Rob Hubbard in really tremendous form for this. It really shouts Dragon's Lair. It's got a nice sort of castle. It's got a little bit of Master and Magic-y sounds in there, so he's lent on that kind of value that he took from those kind of games. So it's got that kind of mystique about it, and it's a tough journey. So you're going to die a lot. Now this game on the version I played was like a disc version, I guess. So I didn't suffer the pain of a tape loader, which again uses the loading in the background trick. Now what amazed me is how much more they got into their games using that method by the look of it than they did in the first one. So again, I think they've either hiring some serious coders, or they've learned a lot about coding in the interim time and really up the ante there. So I think this is a really, really good game. I always liked Escape from Singe's Castle on the C64. It was always a really good game. It's always quite a hard one, though, but it's good. And on the disc version I played, it was quite accessible. You in straight away. There's not a lot of messing about. There's not a lot of wishy-washy. You're straight into the action, and you're straight in. You can be in and playing this game quite quickly without all of the, get through that quick razzmatazz at the beginning, and you're in that first level, going down the river caves and suffering the pain and agony of, getting to 13 and then losing, going, ah. So I think this is a well-deserved sizzler.
Yes.
It's not gold medal material, but it's well-deserved. And I think it's a good game. It's definitely worth going back to, and it's certainly better than the first attempt. And so, again, you're a long way off the arcade, but I think this is what they should have done in the first place, which was take those elements, make them into really good mini-games, put the sound and get all of that and the playability in there, get everything rocking really, really perfectly, so that when you come into this game, you're not really worrying too much about what the old arcade game and the disc laserdisc game looked like. You're actually just focused on this really cool version of something. It plays a lot better, and I really enjoyed my time going back to that, particularly at the music. So I thought it was really good. Definitely worth the score. I think Zapped gave it a 90%, which is good for a game of this type. Niche Dungeons and Dragons-y type stuff for them, and they hated the first one. So good, all good. Good start to this. What about you?
Yeah, it is a better game than the first. That's unarguable. Oh, inarguable. I think there's no two ways around that. It rectifies all the issues that the first one had, and the biggest one is the presentation. That loop of seeing Dirk fall to skeleton and just being able to click through it, and not just that, but being able to click when when Dirk starts to row into the first level, and you can just click the fire button and you're straight in. There's a much faster progression around this. It feels arcadey and it feels more responsive, and that's good. The visuals are a lot nicer. The Boulder Alley one is particularly good, and I mean, it's not even worth commenting on the music. I mean, it's
brilliant.
It's just a really, really good suite of music from Rob Hubbard in comparison to the pretty not very good that we had in the first game. So all that is great. My main issue with this game, and I do like it, it's just too insanely hard. It's insanely hard and frustrating, as you've noted. That first level where you're going through the rapids, it's just ridiculous. I got through 4 screens once, and then just died, and then get sent back all the way to the beginning again. It's just so demoralising. Because you don't get better at it. Because you can't get better at it. Because it's not a memory test, it's a reaction test. So you can kind of thingy, but you only get that. I don't even know what it is. It's like a quarter of a second to react.
Yeah, it's not much,
or something.
Is it?
It's ridiculously short, and it's that middle one where you can do 3 ways.
Yeah.
Left, up, or right, and it just every time, or even sometimes at the bottom, you're like, I'm sure I pressed left. I'm sure I did, and I didn't. And I tried it on keys. I tried it on keyboard. Tried it with joysticks. Tried it everything I had. Nothing seemed to get me through it. So it is what it is. But I don't know. It's probably is it my I did it back in the day. I remember. I think I completed this back in the day. But now, is it my 50-year-old reflexes, my nearly 50-year-old reflexes, and the fact that my knees are bent and my eyes are tired, whatever it is. It's probably that. So I get it, but I found it just a bit frustrating going back to it. I do like it. It's fun, and it's a much, much, much better game than that first one. It's just punishing. I just think that, and I think you noted it as well, and I think just putting that level at the start is just a bit of a misstep in its structure, because it's just too goddamn hard. If when you died, you stayed on the same screen, your progress was at least something, that would have been something, but going back to the beginning every time, and then you'd just die on the first screen again, and you'd just be like, oh, God damn it. And you only got 5 lives, so...
What surprised me, one thing that did surprise me about this is the one thing they never took from the arcade is the fact that you don't always start on the same thing. So in the arcade, if you die, you start at any one of the levels you can restart at, because it's kind of a...
Yeah, it's
and
random,
I'm surprised,
isn't it?
but I suppose they couldn't do that because of the linear nature of tape loading and things like that. And I suppose it has to... I mean, on disc, maybe they could have opted... You could have had an option to allow that. So, you know what, just do this at random, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I think
they could have.
The technology. It's a technological limitation, I'm pretty sure of it.
Yeah, and that's a shame that they didn't inherit that, because it would have been quite useful. And as you said, on a disc version, it could have been implemented. I get it couldn't on tape because it's sequential, but it is what it is. I mean, for all intents and purposes, though, I think this is a good game, and I think 90% for what it's actually doing, and it is fun, if just a little frustrating, and probably for 14, 15-year-olds back then, like myself, who could get actually through those levels because their reaction times were a lot faster. It's probably about right, and you're playing all these games a lot, so yeah, I think they're about right. But just going back to it now, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. I wanted it to be better.
Yes.
I wanted it to be more, give me an easy mode. I've played Dark Souls and completed it. I played all the Dark Souls games, completed them. This just made me tear my bloody hair out.
It is punishing and unforgiving, but yeah, it is a tough old nut, that one.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, probably worth the 90%. Happy to start with. And it's a good one to start with.
There's 9 pieces of music Rob Hubbard did for that game. 9. I mean, this doesn't show you the guy starting to become a bit more prolific. 9 just for one game.
I know. It's a suite, isn't it? It's a proper suite.
Yeah, it is, yeah. That's incredible.
You don't normally get those. But yeah, and each one is distinct, fits the thing as well. I remember the Mudmen one being particularly good. That bell noise.
Yeah, it's just, you know what? It's a pat on the back, this, because this is an achievement. I mean, it's not often, at this point, I can't think of a game where there's been 9 pieces of thematic music for one game, which each one has been consistent of quality like that. So I wonder if this is kind of a first for that, but either way, well done, Rob. Well done, Mr. Hubbard.
All right, yeah, so that's Dragon's Lair. We like it. Sorry, not Dragon's Lair. What am I on about Dragon's Lair? It's Escape from Singe's Castle. It's Return to Singe's Castle. It's like Return to Witch Mountain.
Yes.
And Escape from Witch Mountain, or whatever those were, the original Disney ones, or the ones with The Rock. Do you reckon The Rock would play Dirk the Daring in a film of Dragon's
Lair? I don't know he's the right person for it. No, I think in that guy from, more likely the guy who plays in Guardians of the Galaxy, Star-Lord, the guy that plays Star-Lord. I think.
Well, Chris Pratt, he's everything.
I know, there's nothing wrong with
that. He's the voice of Mario in the new Mario film.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't mind. I think he'd be good.
What about Drax?
Yeah.
Or Vin Diesel? I want someone big.
Why?
Because I just want someone big.
Someone big and well grown. Speaking of that.
Anyway, yeah. Let's move along because we've got next one. Yeah, next is a big bodybuilder, isn't it? Let's move on to our next game, shall we? After all that talk. Because our next one, I am the cure, and something is the disease.
Yeah.
That's what this one's all about. We're talking here about the C64 version of Cobra, which is the Sylvester Stallone film. We've now got the game of the film, and I wish we hadn't. For some reason in my mind, I remember playing a lot of this, and then I went back to it, and I wondered if I was having some kind of Talladega brain wrong again.
Oh dear.
Because what the hell is this? Anyway, you are Marion Cobretti, and as I said, crime is a disease, and he is the cure. You are the cure. So it's a Stallone film. It's a very mid-80s Stallone film, action film.
Very.
That is very, very action, very, very mid-80s, very, very Bridget Nielsen, very, very ropey, and it's not very good. Anyway.
We looked at it in episode something or other in the podcast, didn't we?
We did, somewhere way back in the mist of time. But I want to know, right, just before we get into this, who coined that about him? Just in the world of Cobra, who said, "Oh God, crime's a disease and he's the cure"? He is. Imagine someone saying that in reality about anybody. It's so stupid. You'd be like, "Shut up."
Yeah, especially because the members of the band The Cure aren't going to be too pleased about that.
Yeah, absolutely. But we don't cry. But yeah, they do. They would over this. Anyway, what we got? Yeah, so this is, right, it's the conversion of the Stallone film with the same name. It sees you making your way through 3 levels to take on the Night Slasher and his horde of gang members. And that's in order to rescue the supermodel Ingrid Knudsen, whom this gang have kidnapped.
Good name.
Yeah, it's a great name. So the 3 levels we find ourselves going through, we've got the streets, the woods, and the factory. And kind of follows the basic premise of the film. There are those locations in the film somewhere, and that's kind of where it is. So this is, I'm trying to describe this. So levels are filled with weirdly dressed gang members who are armed with many things, knives, axes, guns, and other stabbing weapons, and so on. And what you have here is essentially a left to right scrolling shoot 'em, stab 'em up thing, which is, if you squint, similar in structure to something like Green Beret, or things that come like Shinobi, Rolling Thunder, that kind of thing, where you can, jump levels and that sort of nonsense. It's that kind of game, except it's just a whole lot more shit than any of those.
Yep.
Because this is dreadful, awful. And I don't know, like I said, my brain must have been highly accepting. I think it was the music, It's that music, the Wii Music tune is actually quite a good tune. And also as well, I didn't realise that the bit where he drives up in the car is the bit of music we use on the podcast. I've never been able to place where that bit of music was from. And it's so it does not fit the game in any way, shape, or form. Do 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 do. It's like, why does he turn up to that music in that car? That's weird. So the issues with this game, they are many and they are varied. So let's start with the controls. They're awful. They're unresponsive and slow. Let's move on to the visuals. Cobra's car is okay, what he turns up in, and that's it. The sprites wobble about with terrible animation, and when they die, They flash weird colours before they disappear. What's that all about?
I don't know. I thought that was weird.
What? They sort of go blue, orange, green, dead. It's like yellow, white, black, dead. It's
Really
like,
stupid.
What the hell's going on? So, the backdrops are okay. They're all right. They're nothing special. The music's nice, but does not fit this game in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. I think they asked for a piece of music for another game, and that got cancelled, and they stuck this in. The terribly arranged. The levels are really badly arranged, and you have to pick up weapons as you go, because meaning that you start with your fist, and probably the problem with that is that any contact with any kind of enemy depletes your health immediately, even if you punch them, which quickly sees you dead. The game starts with a motorbike coming out from behind you. One touch kills you, and the controls are so crap that it's almost impossible to jump onto the trash can, which you need to get onto to jump over it, because they're so rubbish, and so because you'll just kind of get stuck on the trash can. There's weapons to pick up. Yeah, so more often than not you just die instantly. And the weapons to pick up, you got a gun, a knife, an Uzi, there's some grenades, but they're all crap. And the explosion from the grenades wouldn't scare a mouse. It's the worst explosion ever. It's the weakest explosion I've seen in a game for some time. Your health is a burger, which is one of the weirdest sentences I've ever heard myself say. Hey, your health is a burger. Okay, but it disappears so quickly, and hits from the axe wielding menaces or bikes just kill you instantly. So there seems no point to it. This is dreadful. It's a genuinely terrible, terrible game. I didn't get off the first level because it's almost impossible to control and get anywhere with any kind of... You can't get better at this because it's just unresponsive arse. A genuinely bad game and more. And we said this last week, I think it was last week. More turgid arse from Ocean. What are they doing?
Indeed.
And simply, Nobra is what I've just written at the end here.
Very good. Nobra.
Nobra. It does say Nobra, yeah, but it's actually Nobra. Nobra. Yeah, this was dreadful. 13% it got, which is on par with Friday the 13th. And it probably is about right. What did you think?
This is just shit. I mean, there's no way around that. I had never played it before. Now, there's the thing. I just hadn't.
Really?
No, I hadn't. I'd heard the music and I'd seen the film, but I'd never played the game. It just never came across my radar. And I think because I'd read the review in Zap, I think it's sort of one of those occasions when, thankfully, Zap came to the rescue with its, for Christ's sake, don't spend £9 on this shite. So there's nothing redeeming about this. Do you know what baffled me here? Is that the people behind it, Zach Townsend, who did Army Moves, Batman and Platoon, the graphics are by Karen Davis, who did Shadowfire, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, that might explain the flashing, Enigma Force and Dante's Inferno. Yeah. We music did the music, so I've got a feeling that Ocean maybe have reached out and got some kind of external production done for this. I don't know the full details of that, but either way, it's a bit of an odd hybrid.
It's Denton, isn't it? Denton Design.
It doesn't help it in any way, shape or form.
No.
So what you end up with, as you rightly point out, is this buggy, flicky, green beret-ish, Christ knows what. I mean, at least Bazooka Bill had the honesty about how crap it was. This is dressed in Cobra clothes, and I found that a bit, this is again yet more licensing stupidity. So I found at one point I was being chased by a pair of legs in this game, which was quite unnerving. Just blue legs just kept running at me and killing me. It was weird. It's got glitches all over the place, which made it unplayable. I really didn't like it. What's to like? And there's an interesting thing. So I looked into the Ocean book out there, the Ocean history book, because I wanted to see if they made mention of this. And this is a direct quote from the book from David Ward from Ocean. Cobra was okay. The game was okay. I don't think we made bad games. In the film jargon, we made formulaic games, but only because you can't do some groundbreaking creative stuff every time. It became more of a sausage machine, which is why I was keen to nurture original stuff as well. So what that tells me is that they were literally the blind leading the blind here. They didn't give a monkeys about what kind of games they were pumping out. It was a license, and therefore just strap a game to it, and there'll be enough suckers out there to pay for it. And this is just more proof, because we've seen this now several times. This is, on the back of Highlander, on the back of Knight Rider, on the back of all the others. Mm-hmm. This is just complete and utter garbage, this game. There's nothing about it that's redeeming. Well, actually, that's not true. The music is pretty good. I'll give it that. Everything else is completely rubbish. And the idea of Marion Cabretti's energy being presented in a burger... I mean, that's just plain weird, because you replenish that by picking up more hamburgers. I'm just like, there is no point in that film. I mean, if it was pizza, because there is a moment in the film where he cuts pizza with a pair of scissors and eats it. Which is one of the stupidest things I've seen in the film in a very long time. It is ridiculous. But, if you're going to make an energy meter in this, that would make more sense contextually than making it about burgers. And they even refer to it as the burgometer. So it's just, they didn't think anything. I mean, this is not a team of people working in a cohesion. working together to create something really great. This is, we've got a license, we need a game in, 6 weeks. What have you got? And this is the outcome, half-finished graphics, half-finished gameplay, half-finished logic, endless rubbish, naff. Absolutely naff. Shame on you, Ocean, for releasing that. Shame on you.
Yeah, it's garbage, isn't it?
Yeah, rubbish.
Well, there you go. It was one of those ones, I knew it got a really bad review, but I was kind of hoping that I might have remembered correctly, but turns out I'm an idiot.
Harsh.
But fair, based on that nonsense. Let's move along. Let's move along quickly and no more burgers. Because we've got a space shooter coming up. We're into the depths of space, and we don't have Blake 7. We have Sigma 7. Graham, what's Sigma 7?
We do have Sigma 7. So Sigma 7 is quite an interesting game, actually, although I seem to be starting everything off by saying this is interesting, so I'm going to say something different. Sigma 7
intriguing.
Sigma 7's a bit of a cracker, bit of a hidden gem, really, in some ways. In other ways, not so much. This is created by Ron Jeffs. Ron Jeffs is the game man that gave us the Critical Mass game. So, that was the Adventures of Brown in Brownland, wasn't it? So this is slightly different.
It was the Yorkshire Pudding. It was the Yorkshire Pudding game.
It was the C64 Yorkshire Pudding. So this is very different. This is totally not Brown. This is spaceships and stuff. So
it's great.
The space station Sigma 7 has got problems. All of its robots on board have gone bonkers and started, trashing the place. So you've got to set things right by using the controls inside the station to reset them and, of course, do that. So you've got a series of levels you have to fly through, and each one of those, so there's 7 levels in the game, obviously, Sigma 7, and each one of those levels is split into 3 mini-games. The first mini-game is the approach. So it's like a diagonally scrolling isometric style shooter, quite nice graphics, actually. It's a bit basic, because you've sort of got to avoid the mines that are sort of coming at you in sort of formations of 3 or 4. So you just got to kind of shoot them and avoid them. And then when you get through that, it can be difficult, but you've got lives, obviously. But you get through that, nice graphics, a bit grey, but sort of grey, nice grey, for want of a better description. Not, spaceship coloured. So after reaching the station, the second phase kicks in. The second phase is a bit like a Pac-Man type game. So you are a little sort of cannon running around a sort of isometric-driven maze collecting dots. And that is essentially Pac-Man by definition. In fact, it's almost Crystal Castles-y Pac-Man type idea, really. But it doesn't have the maniac speed, stupid jumping, you can shoot things. So it's a little bit of that combined with perhaps a little bit of that sort of 3D/isometric version of the Tron tanks thing. So you've got sort of things that will appear in there and chase you down. It's quite hard to get through it because you've got to try and collect as many dots as you can to open up the indicator changes colour, essentially. When it does that, you can actually you have to go all the way to the end of that level to sort of go to the next phase. But you must remember that as you run around the floor space in there, some of those dots cannot be picked up. Why, you might ask? Why, Adrian, can't you pick those dots up? Well, I'll tell you, because that's important for what you need in part 3. Phase 3 is a kind of a puzzle game where you're represented with a sort of an isometric grid of coloured lights that sort of flickering across, and you've got to change the colours on these tiles. So you do that by you've got like a little ball, and you sort of hammer your ball down on top of them, and there's a thing that follows you around that if you hammer on top of that thing when it's underneath you, it zaps you and kills you, so you've got to try and avoid that. And so there's a bit of timing needed to sort of do all of that. But the main thing is you've got to remember the pattern from phase 2 that was on the floor in the dots in order to replicate that pattern on the sort of next bit where you change the colour of the tiles to the white. And when you do that and get the pattern right, you complete that phase, you've completed that particular level, and it's back to the beginning again and back to the sort of next level, and it's just kind of the same thing again. So exactly the same thing again. So you've got those 3 sort of levels. So the first bit's a bit easy, actually, and the second bit is quite hard and challenging but interesting. The third bit, a weird puzzle game, which if you don't remember what you didn't eat on the previous one, you're completely screwed. You're knackered. You can't do it, so you're going to be dead. So I think that logic is a little bit stupid because it's not immediately obvious that you need to even remember those dots. You do think, why haven't I been able to pick those up? Because you're racing around in like Pac-Man. When was the last time you played a Pac-Man game and if you didn't get to the dots, you thought, oh, that's because I can't eat them, not because I've just missed them. And I think that's the problem. They needed to be a different colour. There needed to be an indication that those things were different to the other dots. Otherwise, you wouldn't know the difference. And that's a problem of the game logic and the game design. So once you get through that, bouncing the ball on the patterns and creating the patterns and do all of that, it's just kind of go through and repeat. So essentially, you've got phase 1, take off and fly and shoot stuff. Phase 2, go through and eat dots and remember the ones you don't eat. Phase 3, control the thingy units to switch it off so that you can so you can get through it. This is graphically quite nice. There's decent presentation, and there's quite interesting gameplay dynamics in this. It's unusual, actually, this game's a bit odd. The music's actually composed by somebody called Julian Breeze. Now, Julian Breeze composed music mainly for the Spectrum 128, actually, 128K. And I think this is actually a game that's on the Spectrum 128K, or at least I'm pretty sure there's versions of it on other platforms. Now, the music is arranged, as per the credits on the game, by Rob Hubbard. And he did the same with Thanatos. The Thanatos music for the Spectrum version is by Julian Breeze and arranged by Rob Hubbard again. So the music is quite nice in this unusual piece of music, actually. Sound effects are kind of okay. I quite like Sigma 7. It's kind of different. Some of the objects fly around a bit at crazy speed, so when you do get blown up a lot and you do die a lot. So this is quite an interesting game overall. I'm not sure that the price is probably right for this because it's $9.95 full price. It's got 70% in Zapped, which is about there. Take a punt if you think it's any good, if you like that kind of thing. I quite liked it, and I thought it was okay. And I don't normally like isometric games, but I think it was varied enough. The funny thing about this was there was a really funny little piracy thing that came up. Did you see that at the beginning when you started the game?
God,
yeah.
If
you find anyone with this pirate, send us in, dob them in, and we'll send you £100 and an actual legitimate copy of the game. I wonder if that ever happened. I doubt it. Anyway, that was my thoughts. So Sigma 7, it's about 70% okay. So Sigma 70%. What about you?
It's all right.
Yeah,
it's okay. I'm getting like this is like Escape from Singe's Castle. Like I kept getting annoyed that I kept dying and getting put at the beginning of the level.
Yeah, frustrating.
And the level is randomized, so you can't. We'll come to another one which does it later on in a couple of games actually, which I don't mind because of a certain type of thing. But this one just keeps randomizing it. So again, you can't learn it. Don't mind getting sent back to that level if I can learn what's coming up, so I can plan for it. Randomizing stuff, no, don't like that. So this is so what is this? You got Zaxxon meets Pac-Man 256.
Yeah, yes, actually, yeah.
Meet, and I never got past this backpan thing, and I didn't even know. I kept going over the dots that weren't being picked up, going, why can't I pick them up?
Yeah,
because I didn't know you couldn't. And then I died, and I was like, oh, okay, well, there you go. So yeah, you got to clear a maze of dots. You got to fly through a Zaxxon. It was the bit in space, in it. So it's the middle part of Zaxxon, where you don't go through the tunnel or whatever.
Yeah,
and that's it. It's okay. I mean, it's technically quite nice, but and the graphics are okay. They're a bit grey, but the isometric view is quite nice. The spaceship's okay. The animation's all right. There's nothing bad about it. It's an okay game. I just found it weird that the game seemed more interested in making sure that I didn't copy it than anything else. Because not only was that thing at the beginning which said, but did you notice, by the way, that they said they'd only give you £100 if they could prove that it and get a prosecution from it. So if they didn't get the prosecution, you ain't getting your £100.
Yeah.
But then in the actual game itself, it goes, don't make sure you've got a legitimate copy of this or whatever. There's another warning, isn't there? There's another bit.
Yeah, there is somewhere.
And there's and the repeated, and also, here's a weird thing, which I thought about this game. Push forward to start.
Yeah, that was
What's that all about?
Yeah.
I can't press fire. I always press fire. Why would I push forward? What nonsense is this? And that big SS or Durell logo that kept coming up and going down. It was like, get off. There was too much. Because every time you died, you got warned. Have you copied this? It was like, no.
Well,
I haven't copied it.
We had.
Well, technically we have.
That might be why it was appearing.
Technically we have, but 30, I'm going to dob you in. See if I can get my £100. I'm ringing them up. I know someone who's got it. They've got a dodgy copy of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all right. It's 70%. It's neither fair nor foul. It's just anything. It's just all right. It's just in the middle. But a 10 is too much.
Yeah, I think I'd be happier if this was budget.
Put this in a budget suit. And I'd have been like, this is a really good budget.
I'd have been a bit more
fit.
forgiving over it. If you don't remember these dots, you can't do it thing.
In a similar vein, I'd rather go play. I'd rather been more happy playing Panther.
Yes,
Spam tin isometric adventure roll mops in a tin over over this. But that's what this is. It's in that sort of isometric shoot 'em up, Zaxxon, Blue Max, all those kind of things. It's those in it. But it's all right. I'm not. It's just not a lot to it apart from being warned that I shouldn't copy it.
Yeah,
that's what I took away from this. I didn't. Well, I did.
Don't you go copying this?
Oh, have you copied it? No.
I mean, I'm not being funny, Mr. Sigma 7, but you've not created like something that's pure gold there. It's
no.
It's just saying that it's good, but it's not necessarily that good. And all you're really doing, by the way, if you're going to do things like that, is you're just ringing a bell for all the game crackers out there back then. And if you're saying, don't you dare copy this game, it's like you may as well just give it to them. So here you go, I'll tell you what, you have that.
It's very true, because they'll just see it as a challenge.
Well, yeah, they will, and they'll just, and if he's put elaborate protection in that, that's their duty at the time was to get rid of that.
True. It's like nectar, isn't it? It's like flowers to a bee. Yeah, it's like,
absolutely.
Copy protection.
Yeah.
There
Exactly.
you go. Anyway, yeah, Sigma 70%. I like that. That's good. Yeah, that's about right.
Yep.
Let's move on to our next one, which is more shooting in space. But yeah, this one, another 9.95. Scores exactly half of Sigma 7, 35%. This is Defcom. What do I say about this? My first comment on this is some games just leave me at a loss as to point of them. I don't understand this game. No. I don't. At what point did anybody go, release that? Because that's clearly a game. Because it's not. I don't know what it is. Anyway, we'll come to that. Defcom is set in 2056 and you play Nick Diamond.
Good name.
Which is clearly a cross between the Good Morning TV presenters, Nick Ross and Ann Diamond.
It is, yeah, totally.
So they've obviously been sat there trying to think of a name, and they've been early one morning. They've gone, Nick Diamond. What about Ann Ross? No, it can't be a woman.
Thinking
Nick
about
Diamond.
it, though, on the back of the fact that we watched The Fly last week, if you put those two in those chambers, what would come out? If you blended them in their DNA, what would a Nick Diamond actually be?
I don't know.
I don't want to think about it.
I don't either, no. Ugh. She'd have it'd be her massive jumpers, only half of them.
It's just terrifying.
It is really, Nick Diamond, sequel to The Fly. Anyway, so you pilot the catchily titled spaceship, the E751,
Catchy.
which sounds like a food colouring.
It probably is.
So he's looked at his tin of sardines, and while he sat watching breakfast TV, looking for names. What's in this? E7. That'll do. And you have to protect the Earth from space debris from the orbital defense system, I think, which has been sabotaged by passing aliens, and you have to protect from the aliens themselves. It's like some really old rubbish arcade game. These aren't rubbish, but it's like a rubbisher version of these, like Gyrus, which reminded me of Gyrus and Galaxians. That kind
it's
of
got that
crap.
vibe, yeah.
But it's in a slightly 3D-ish fashion. But I thought the aliens looked like Quality Street sweets. I don't know if you noticed that.
They did. They absolutely did. Yeah.
That's what they look like. And they moved at such a pace. It was impossible to hit anything.
Yes, it was.
You couldn't do anything.
Bullets are too slow.
Your bullets are too slow. The aliens are too fast. Nothing works. You only get one life. And I tried it because in the review, Julian Rignall says you can survive if you just go to the left, and hold down the fire button. And I tried it, and I did for 10 minutes. It's 10 minutes of my life I'm not getting back. It's longer than I took when I just didn't play Xeno. The other week when I just down tools and buggered off. This time I couldn't down tools because I told it to the right, because that's the other thing. Right moves you left and left moves you right.
Don't.
What is this game? Anyway, to the view of the game, you've got your ship. It's over the Earth. The Earth is rotating or something underneath you, like at the bottom little bit of the screen. None of it makes a lick of sense. The game seems to offer no challenge or any kind of levels or anything. Messages pop up about aliens over parts of the world. They seem entirely arbitrary, and everything is meaningless and pointless and not worth it. I don't know. It's a strange game, bereft of anything I would actually call a game. This is like what a student would submit when they've just learned how to code something and gone, I've done this. Yes. And you're like, very good. Now go away and make something playable that works. Because what do you make of what do you make of something that's not a game? Because it's not a game. There's nothing in it that works. What did you manage to make it work?
No, well, I don't know. I mean, it loaded and it started. Now I don't know if that constitutes meaning it's a game. I mean, I rotated round badly, shot at things badly, couldn't really hit anything because everything was kind of inappropriately speedy. The premise of it was stupid because the Earth's atmosphere would burn these things up long before they hit the Earth. But even if that wasn't the case, you're so far above the Earth. And, by the way, you must be travelling at some speed because that Earth is rotating fast underneath you. So you're travelling at breakneck speed, presumably in orbit, which means that you just got to wait for things to land in orbit. Everything's stupid. This is binary design, isn't it? This is the people that made Miami Dice. So I think they've spent
that explains a lot.
Far too much time shaking their wrists at each other. And this is the result. It was flicky, bitty, unenjoyable, and unplayable.
Defcom.
It was absolutely awful. And it's got a jingly bit of David Whittaker music in it, or 1 minute, 2 of it, or whatever it is. It's ridiculously short. It's the only thing you can say is actually okay in it. Everything else was awful. Just rubbish. Full price for this. Full price. I mean, just no. Just no. But we've seen this a lot, these episodes. There seems to be so much of this mediocrity at full price. In fact, this isn't even mediocrity, this is full-on crap. And there's a lot of it. And I think this is, as much as this has been a series of episodes, 3 episodes of the podcast, there's been a lot of crappy games in there. So, it's starting to really wear me down after this many. Because this is just another one where I loaded it up and the big scrolly thing came and I'm like, oh, here we go. And then I read the blurb, but I'm like, I'm somebody called Nick Diamond flying an Eagle Class E751 over Earth. Just thought, you know what? Apparently, if you collect 1,000 whatever, you get an upgrade to double lasers. I never got that far into it. I just kind of, at one point, my spaceship just disappeared as I was rotating. It just vanished. I'm like, what? Where am I? Have I put a shield on? And it's just bad. It's just bad. Bad game. Rubbish. Yeah, waste of time. I feel sorry for anyone that bought that for $9.95. Please, I hope that Zapp's review thwarted any purchases before it got into someone's hands. I do.
That would really punch you in the face, wouldn't it, if you bought that?
Oh, you would if you got the grand double bill of that and the bloody, and, imagine it's your birthday around this time. God forbid you got Defcom and Cobra. My God.
Jesus.
It explains why there's a lot of serial killers coming out of the mid-80s.
Why did you kill people? Cobra.
Defcom. I played this game called Defcom, and it angered me so much that I had to murder someone's dog. And then that just began the whole process. After that, I thought, why stop at dogs?
Why stop at dogs? Indeed. I just went all the way up to elephant.
I went all the way up to elephants, yeah.
That'd be weird. Serial killers start, don't they, on little things sort of thing. Imagine if serial killers started on big things, killing rhinos and elephants.
Well, it'd be more obvious, because they'd have to go, in the UK, they'd have to be climbing the walls of a zoo with an axe. The zookeeper's looking at going, have you got you meant to be there?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, I am.
Carry on, then. Carry on, then.
Well, just, you know what? Just stay off the grass, all right? Because we're just, just...
We'll just moan it.
Is that axe sharp? Oh, so sharp. All right, okay. Right. I'll leave you to it then, mate. See you later.
See you later. I'm going to go back and read my biz.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Oh, there we go. Defcom. It's crap.
Yes, crapcom.
It really is. Let's move on to a later on. It's another shooter, so let's see what's coming up. So, Graham, we have an arcade conversion from the arcade conversion masters, perhaps. Terra Cresta from Magent. Tell us all about Terra Cresta.
Okay, I will. Now, this is coded by David Rambo Collier. That isn't the name he actually gave himself, by the way. I've given him that because he coded Rambo. So I don't know, maybe he looks like Rambo. I don't know. And it's got Steve Waheed on the graphics. So it's a good triangle of coder, graphics, and music with Martin Galway doing the sounds here. So all those things are good. This is an old arcade from our friends at Nichibutsu again. So, and this was one of their big arcades. Now, interestingly enough, this was actually a follow-up to another game. And this was a follow-up to a game called Mooncrester. Now, Mooncrester is a game that we have missed in our reviewing because it was actually in issue 2 of Zap 64 back in June 85. And for some reason, it's not in our episode 2 of the podcast.
I think at that point we weren't reviewing everything.
Yeah, so we might have to go back and revisit and make sure there's a few we might have missed there. But so Mooncrester was one of them. So I tell you what, I played Mooncrester because I thought, well, let's do this the right way. So I went back and played Mooncrester. So very quickly, Mooncrester was an arcade game developed by Nichibutsu.
You don't say.
I think it's 1980, I think. It's maybe not as early as that, but it's an early one. And it's basically a Galaxian style shoot of its time, of that time of sort of shooter. So it's very much aliens in a pattern spinning around. You have the space, you've got a spaceship. Your spaceship's in 3 parts. So you start off with a little top section, you shoot, you blow things up. If you die, then the second section comes in, you've got double bullets, and then the third section, the spaceship comes in if you died, so you got 3 lives. And it's that kind of, it's very much a Galaxians pattern-based shoot 'em up, a la sort of that Space Invaders idea. So it's that. And the C64 version of that is actually pretty good. So it's reasonably faithful. It's a bit slower than the arcade, it has to be said. But the waves and patterns of enemies are there. It's quite simple in its design. The graphics still look pretty good. And it's quite a nice touch with the spaceship being in 3 parts. It scored 78% in the original Zap, and they said it was a good conversion, and it was. So that was Mooncrester. So Terra Cresta is the sequel to that. So in Terra Cresta, you pilot a space fighter over a planet to kill everything you can. Now, it says in one particular discussion about this that the giant thing you fight at the end is called the Death Star. In others, in the arcades, the name of your spaceship is actually the Wing Galiber, and you've got to destroy the Mandela army before they destroy all of humanity. In the C64, that isn't kind of the premise, it's sort of that. So in the C64 version, you're the captain of the Terra Cresta, which is the ship you're in, and you've got to fly and fly up, and eliminate everything that comes in your path, be it objects on the ground, sort of structures, and alien patterns, and alien waves. So you can collect, there are little bunkers, silos that are on the ground, numbered bunkers, and you can collect those and actually you can build up your ship to become a bigger ship. So you can go into formation mode. And when you do that, you form into a bigger ship and you collect bigger power-ups, and you can shoot, in different ways, and you have much sort of more powerful capacity. And each at the end of the levels, as you get to them, you're confronted by a boss. So you can use your Terra Cresta form to sort of shoot at that. The final boss that you face, the most powerful one of all, you can only beat that when you're in full Terra Cresta form. So you've got to make sure you've powered up and got all the power-ups that you can throughout the game. So the arcade is basically the same. The C64 version of this isn't actually that bad a conversion of the arcade. It's obviously it's never going to have the fidelity of graphics of a full-blown arcade hardware, but it's not a bad version. It's competent and it's challenging. It's a decent shoot 'em up. So the graphics, while not wholesale amazing, are reasonably rendered. It looks a bit like the arcade, plays like the arcade. It's got some really nice enemy patterns and a good arcade tone. The music and the tone of the game is good, and the sound effects they're a bit squeaky because they're a bit more bassy in the arcade, but they're still good. It's really hard, of course, because it's based on an arcade logic. And I think it's one of those arcades, again, that's actually taller than it is wide, but this sort of actually gets the balance about right, even though it is doing that, and you still feel like you're playing an assembly of the game, and it's quite good. I found the idea, when you die, you just start at the beginning of the stage each time, quite frustrating. But it angered me over time, because she gets so far, and then it's back to the beginning. Gets so far, back to the beginning. And that's totally unforgiving. You lose everything, you're back to the beginning again. It's like, oh my God, you just start me from where I left off, please. So I suspect that's inherited from the arcade. I don't think this is a game where you've got continues in the arcade. It could have. I have not actually played the arcade original for many, many years. But either if it doesn't, this C64 version doesn't have that, so it is very difficult, very frustrating. Great music, title music in this. The SFX art's good, but the opening music for this is pretty damn good. One of Galway's really interesting sort of patterns-based sort of music that he does. Really interesting, big sounds. Mm-hmm. So it's another above-average shoot 'em up. It's certainly better than the Xeviouses and and some of those other types that we've seen like this. It's better than that, a lot better. And I think it helps that it was based on a good, solid arcade that set its constituent rules and laid them out nice and simply for all to see. And they've just followed that pattern. They haven't tried to make it more complex or do anything stupid. It just does what the arcade did. And I think that's to its credit. So I quite liked it, although it is so annoyingly hard. And this has been the episode of really tough games. So between this and Escape from Singe's Castle, I was borderline lobbing my joystick out the window at times. I think this one, I'd give this one the edge because, I don't know, between the two, I was starting to lose the plot a little bit. So it's a good shooter. I think it got 50-odd%, which I don't know. I think maybe it's a bit better than 56%. I'd have perhaps pushed it up a little bit, but I can see why maybe they're a bit tired of these kind of things because there seems to be a few of them have come out at once. But I thought it was all right. I quite enjoyed it. The music's great anyway, even if you don't like much else. So what about you?
Yeah, I really like this. I've always liked this conversion. I thought it's great. 56% is a travesty as far as I'm concerned, because this is as good as Light Force as I'm concerned. As a vertical scrolling shoot 'em up, it's a solid and it's as good because they said this is as good as the arcade game. The arcade game is a good solid vertical scrolling shoot 'em up. Yes, it is hard, but in lieu of that, it's a pattern-based game, so you can learn where stuff comes, so you can figure out, you know where to be on the screen, so it becomes a bit of a memory test, and that is, like a lot of shooters, is kind of how you get through these. They become pattern memory recognitions, and so once you figure out, right, I need to be here for that, that for that, do for that, and you can get through it. So for me, it's not, yes, it is by the guys who did Rambo sort of thing, but I'd also, they did Green Beret as well, so it's the Green Beret trio. So we're on for good stuff here, and I really like it. It's a bit bare bones in the presentation. I think they could have maybe done something around the edges. It's I quite like the fact the scores in the border at the top, but it's a bit, that title screen, it's a bit empty, isn't it? It's just some names. There's no real thing.
Yeah.
However,
not much to it.
The music's ace, and what it does have is my singular favourite high score piece of music of any game. That high score music, I love it.
Oh,
I've always loved
that
it.
Yeah.
I've always loved it's just great. And I really do like it. The music in this is, it's weird, strange. Because I think all the main interstitial stuff is all straight renditions of the arcade versions, which are very similar. I just put through the Martin Galway filter, which infinitely makes them pretty better. It's challenging. It's very good. It looks good. It's just a solid shooter that I've always liked. And this is when we've had. There's one coming up later on in this episode, which we'll talk about. But when we've had stuff like 1942 get it wrong, it's nice to see this come along and get it right. And in amongst all the dearth of crap we've had from Ocean, that there are some people working, I know this is Imagine, but we know Ocean own Imagine. There are some people working there that are knocking these games out at quite a rate. And, they've got a template and they know what they've got to do. So it's kind of handy to have that. But they're doing really good stuff. So this to me is a great game. And I really like the advert for it in the front cover as well. I think it's a Wakeland cover, is it?
It is. I mean, it's got the presentation.
It's really nice.
It has. But Zapped were critical of it for its. They say They said it was boring over time. They said it's dull. And I can see it. I can see it.
But I can see that. But Light Force is only 4 levels.
Yeah, and
it's the same.
I think that's the point. I think this just feels because it's slower, isn't it? So it feels that I think the pace is just. I don't know if the pace is slightly off, or they're just not. They've never seen a game that works at this kind of pace properly. Because the other games come along later down the line on the Amiga, even that have this sort of pace to them, and
Swiv and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, totally Swiv, and there's a number of them, and I think perhaps this is just. I'm not sure quite. I think they know quite what they're looking for, and this one does get the blend better. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it gets it better. But it's certainly better than some of the others. But they seem to be. They were quite down on this game, and I read the review, and I was thinking. I can sort of see their point. I think they're maybe suffering from bad game fatigue, as I was. And I think I think at this particular, I think that's what it is. Because if this was in if this was in an issue, is that where they reviewed less games that were poor, I think it would have scored better. I mean, I'd be interested to get Julian Rignall's very thoughts on that, because I'd like to know what he actually thinks about it now. So if you're out there, Julian, feel free to Twitter us or send us a message to say, and you don't have to be much, just say, I thought it was shit, or yes, it was good. Do me.
Yeah, 56% was right. Shut up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Quiet down.
We stand chastened.
But yeah, you've always liked Terra Cresta, though. In fact, I think it was you that put me onto the music of this many moons ago, saying you should give this one a listen, and it is very, very good in terms of its presentation. You can't really argue with it. It's got some top-notch coding going on, so good stuff. Yeah,
it's smooth. All the aliens, the patterns are good. The bullets work well. And what like you said, it has that central mechanic of building your ship up into this big, essential fiery phoenix, isn't it? It's what you become at the end. Yeah. And so there's that notion of building your ship up, and the way you split, and if you split in, if you've got 3 parts, you split a different way, 4 parts a different way, even more, firing off bullets left, right, and centre. And then when you get to the 5th, if you manage to get to the 5th one, which is hard but doable with a bit of practice, you get that cool fiery phoenix effect, which is better in the arcade, but is okay here. Yeah. And it's got bosses. It's got everything we want at this point. Yeah, I just think this is a great game and a really, really solid conversion. But yeah, that's just me. There you go. Anyway, that's Terra Cresta. I'm glad that was stood up because I was looking forward to that one. But maybe not the next one. Maybe not the next one.
No.
It's a crap vert come to life.
Literally.
Next one. Literally. Because next up we have £11.95 because it comes with a surfboard. Oh yeah, we have Surf Champ. It's finally arrived. The whatever this is.
Yeah.
Do you know what my first comment on this is? I don't want to talk about this.
Do you know, funny enough, my first comment on this was, why wouldn't you do a version of a Beach Boys song?
Well, any kind of sound would be good.
Well, Mike, this music, if you could call it that.
There's a tune, and then in game there's very little.
The quiet, soothing sounds of the noise filter.
So we laughed at the crap verts way back with the Spectrum version of the crap idea of putting a surfboard on your computer. We laughed at them.
Which is still a crap idea, by the way.
There were 2 of them. Anyway, I couldn't get to the surfing part of this. I don't know why. So upon loading, you're asked to put in your name, whether you're male or female, height, weight, and so on. Then you pick an outfit, and then you pick a board to surf on. And once this is done, none of that makes any difference that I could determine, because I tried different things. I made myself into a proper, very heavy person. I made myself very thin, male, female, tall. The sprite was always the same. The board was always, nonsense. You get some weather information, which is, I might as well be listening to the, what do they call it? The Isle of Dogs 4-7. The shipping forecast.
Now, see, I like the shipping forecast.
It's good to go to sleep to.
North Utsira, South Utsira, West, Northerly, 10.
Yeah, it's like,
I always want them to, because it feels to me like they're just saying random things.
it feels to me like it's part of a spy movie.
Well, I just want them to say random things. So, North Utsira, Pygmy, Chinese, 47. Oh no, the wind's Pygmy.
It's like the worst kind of bingo. Worst kind of
it
bingo.
is.
It's like a worst bingo caller ever.
It is. This is where he ended up. He's never been able to get a job bingo calling because his bingo calls are just too out there.
All the Chihuahuas, 73.
All the Chihuahuas, Dogger. There is one called Dogger, isn't there? Viking.
Is there what a bingo?
Yeah, there's an area because I think there are areas of the map.
Bingo or the shipping forecast?
No, not bingo. There's no Dogger in bingo. I don't think. And I don't know what kind of bingo you've been doing, but I don't partake.
Well, you don't know what kind of bingo I've been doing.
I think I can guess if one of the terms is Dogger. I don't ever want to be involved in dogging bingo ever for the rest of time and space.
I've been in Maggie's den.
Good Lord. Anyway, so Surf Champ.
Surf Champ. Yeah, what is this? You get some weather information, and then you enter the game proper, which is a single side-on view of a bay. I think it is where some. I hesitate to call them waves. There's these white shapes that sort of come towards the beach.
Yes.
And you can go into the water and you can paddle towards them, but I couldn't do anything more. And it said in the review, press space. It wouldn't stand up for me. I couldn't do anything. I just used to get, all I did was just get obliterated on the rocks. Every time, smashed up on the rocks, start again. What was I playing? What was this? This is like Defcom. What was it? What's the notion here? Remember, this game was used in a competition, and was endorsed by a leading surfer as a quality surf, simulator. What was it? Because there is supposedly there's a screenshot of a different kind of thing where you're in the wave, and it's like I couldn't get him to stand up. So maybe if I could have got the surfer to stand up, maybe I would have got to the second part where you ride the wave. Maybe. But I couldn't, so I didn't, and then it's crap. And it was awful, and there was nothing good about it. And I didn't get one crumb of entertainment from this.
No.
And I just thought this was wretched.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of other words for awful, because we say awful a lot. So wretched is my word for this. Did you enjoy your time on the ocean waves on your board?
No, I did not.
I always know your answer. I don't know why I ask.
I was bemused at best by the weird, meaningless array of options.
Yeah.
So, choose your board length, choose your board selection from pop-out single fin, custom twin fin, 2.5 fin, and 3 fin thruster. Now, that one did make me laugh. I thought, if I'm having a surfboard, I'm having a 3 fin thruster, because it only sounds brilliant. It sounds painful. Then when you choose your gear, you've got pod, summer suit, winter suit, no suit, and leash. That worried me a little bit, as the things about surfers, I don't know anything about surfing at all other than water and surfboards and what I've seen in the movies and stuff. Then I got my weather report, wind direction. The Beaufort number was 2. I don't know if that's good or bad. It could be anything.
It's somewhere on the Beaufort scale.
I don't even know what it means.
Wasn't he the other guy captain on the Question of Sport?
Yeah,
Bill Beaufort.
Bill Beaufort. So he just gives it a number. He puts his finger, nicks his finger, puts it in the air. The winds are 3. Or maybe he just farts and they go, oh, God, that's a Beaufort 4, that one. God.
That's a proper 3-fin thruster.
Ew. So I did as you did. I did all that. And then I was on the beach and my little sprite was clutching his board. And I thought, all right, ran into the water-ish. And then the waves were rolling in, this kind of wave effect, which is, I thought it looked like waves, I suppose, is the best you could say about it, I think. But I couldn't, I was just in the water sort of spinning around, splashing about, just having a good old laugh, really, clutching my surfboard. Not getting on the surfboard. My surfer was not doing surfing today. He wasn't having it. He wasn't doing it in any way. So I just kind of flopped and fliddled around the water and kept getting pushed out back to the beach by the water. I'm like, I'm the worst surfer in the world. I just keep going out and it just keeps pushing me back to the beach. I think it's trying to tell me something. There were some sounds, I think. So my final thought on this, because it's obviously rubbish, is this is some kind of troubling simulation of something. I just don't know what that is. And it's certainly not surfing. I don't know. So it's a mysterious game.
Yeah, well, it's also the fact that you can swim out all the way to the top of the sea and then get across to where the town is, and you're still the same size.
Yeah.
So that town is really close.
Yeah. It's not thoroughly thought through, and I don't believe there's real surfers out there who go, my God, have you played that Surf Champ game? You may as well sell your surfboards, because that's more like the real thing.
It is. It even comes with a one you can put over your Spectrum keyboard.
These are people that love being outside. They love the outdoors. They love it so much that they're willing to go and immerse themselves in the murky waters off the coast of Britain, which I can tell you is, in some areas, especially around here, is a dangerous thing to do because there'll be turds and condoms floating past your surfboard around here.
Yes, there would.
So, so you're dedicated. If you're going in the waters off the coast of Britain anyway, you're dedicated to being a surfer. Or hats off to you, fair play, that's your thing. But don't expect this game to be anything other than what it is, which is just, it mentions the word surfer and there's a sprite holding a surfboard. Everything else is kind of some kind of afterthought, so it was rubbish.
It was rubbish. Wretched. Yeah, that was it. We didn't really expect much more, did we, after those bloody crap verts?
No.
We didn't.
No.
And we were horribly proven right.
I give this a Beaufort number of do one. So number 2.
Yeah. It's a 4-fin plumper.
It bloody is. Can take its 3 fins and thrust off.
There we go. Surf champ. Yeah, crap. Okay, last game up, coming up for this section before we move on to other stuff. And that game is coming up right now. Graham, how did your time as a destroyer captain go? Tell us all about Destroyer.
Now, Destroyer is a really interesting game if you like controlling World War II ships, military ships, and in fact a Fletcher-class destroyer in this particular game. So it's a simulation, this really, and now it plays. Now this plays in that. Is it a simulation? Is it arcade? Is it a good hybrid of the two? And then sadly, this is not a good hybrid of those two. It's an excellent naval ship simulation with missions and stuff like that. But to say that the arcade parts are a little bit weaker compared to the rest of it is an understatement. And there's some other things to come to. So in this game, and by the way, I had the original of this way back then.
Did you?
Yeah, it's a game that I'd bought. Yeah, because I've got a pedigree of Navy stuff in my family. My dad was in the Navy, brothers in the Navy. So you're in the control of the Fletcher class destroyer, which you can name. I'll come to all that in a minute. But you can name during World War II, and you can undertake a series of naval war missions, which are Sub Hunter, where you've got to seek and destroy enemy submarines; Screen, where you've got to protect an aircraft carrier from some enemy aircraft; Scout, where you've got to scout an area before a convoy crosses some treacherous waters. You've got a mission that you can attempt called Bombardment, where you can shell key parts of an island ahead of your Marines landing on it; Blockade Runner, where a small island outpost is surrounded, so you've got to break through the blockade with some supplies. Convoy Escort, where you lead a slow-moving merchant vessel in a convoy to an outpost, and dangerous outpost, so you're getting attacked all the time. And Rescue, where one of your pilots has been shot down and managed to make it to a nearby island, and you've got to then go and rescue him out of the island. So those are the missions you can partake in, and the idea really is complete the missions, don't get sunk. It's kind of the, don't sink your ship, either by enemies doing it or by you controlling it like a fool. Now, I'll come back to that as well later.
Yeah, so will I.
So you control, this is the simulation, so you control this through various different screens. Now, this reminded me a little bit of Ace of Aces in the way that you've got different screens that have different sections, that have different controls. So you access these various screens with 2-letter commands. So you type in the 2-letter commands and like control parameters. So you've got things like BR is bridge, NA is navigation, RA is radar, and you control those. And these will go from different screens. And in those, then you use up and down on the joystick and the fire button to control the various switches and the direction of the ship and all the rest of it. At least 4 of those, I think it's bridge, navigation, I think radar may be one of them. There's another one where you've actually got helm control. So you can control the direction and the speed of the ship and all of that. You can set it to autopilot as well. So you can set a direction and a place that you want to be. Check on your radar where the enemies are going to be and set it all up to go for that. And then you can just sort of sail there and then engage with them in the various different ways. Press OB to go to the observation deck, and you can actually see what's going on. So each one of these views exists in its own little mini micro world. Now, it's a micro load as well. And on disc, you just about get away with it. I can't imagine this. I don't know if there was a tape version. I can only imagine it's like a living hell. And it really only just gets away with it on disc. Now, it's cited as a problem in the Zapped review because of the... Now, this did use the Vorpal loader, I think, which is still a fast loader of Epic's prescribed fast loader, but even then it is a little bit of an interruption to the game flow when you press, go back to the bridge and it's like and it loads up and then you go, actually I need to go to navigation. It's clever that it keeps all the main data in there, but you've got to keep your eye on all of these various things. So damage control, it's again similar to Ace of Aces. A couple of problems with that idea for me is one, that a ship is not operated by a guy. So, you've got a crew there. And I think that this feels like you don't have a crew to command. And I think if they had have added that logic to it, so you could set Ensign Johnson on the this particular set of controls, give them a series of controls to do, and then you just rely on those people to then report back to you as some kind of central captain. That would have made a bit more sense in terms of a simulation, but they allied that to make it feel a bit more panicky, arcadey, so you've got switches and things to click on and screens to dive in between. And I think that does become a little bit of a problem, because you can very quickly get engrossed in all the various different screens and not actually really realise that you're not really doing much other than that and not really playing the game. And when you get to the missions and you do some of the arcade bits, they feel a bit perfunctory compared to the rest of the game. So those bits feel a little bit like a fourth. So when you're shooting at the planes and you're doing some of the arcadey style bits, they're good, but they're not as good, if you like. You'll have spent more time controlling and trying to get to the bottoms of the, where am I navigating over there and what's over there, and checking your bridge and checking your various radars and things and all of that. So there's a lot to manage, and I think perhaps too much. And in the way that Ace of Aces scaled it down a little bit so you weren't overwhelmed with control screens, I think this is probably slightly the opposite. So there's a little bit too many of the control stations to sort of get between and to interoperate. So dancing between them becomes quite, it takes some getting used to. This is created by Epix, of course, and so it's actually coded by Chuck Somerville. That's the guy that made Summer Games 2. So it's got a pedigree of code, and the graphics and the presentation are all there. It's nice, it looks good, it's tonally and thematically, it looks like you're on a destroyer. All of that is great. The missions are challenging. I'm not going to say they're not, because they are. But I actually found, as I did when I had it originally, the more I played this game, the more you get into it. You need the instructions for this. And once you read through the instructions and you sort of get to grips with what the screens do, it just takes time. It's a game that you need to really work through and really get into. It's a simulation at the end of the day, and it behooves us to say that it's not more simulation than this arcade, and for that, it means those take time to get used to. So I thought this was actually, I really quite like Destroyer. I don't normally go for these kind of simulations, but I found this one quite engrossing, and the more I played it, the more I sort of got into it. I did have some fun, of course, because you can name the ship and your captain. So somewhere out there in the annals of World War II history, the USS Cumstain was fought on an epic battle. The USS Underpants was very, very successful. The USS Banana did quite well with various different captains, Captain Morgan, Captain Staines, all sorts of, Captain Pugwash, of course. And then the USS Calibos was my most successful ship under the command of Captain Morgan. So I had a good time with this. I can see it was a pretty decent game. I think it was $9.99. I suspect it was probably more on disc. I don't know, maybe that's the disc price, I don't know. It got 85% in Zap. About right, I think, for this. I think if to get that extra 15%, it needed a bit more thematic sound, a bit more, ship-related stuff, and perhaps a bit more to do once you got to the various mission points. Because sometimes it just felt like you got there and it was a bit like, now what? But other than that, this is Epix turning their hand to something else. Good on them, because at least in this sea of crappy games in February, there are some sailing in, pardon the pun, and at least doing some things right. But what did you think?
Yeah, it's 15 quid on disc.
Yeah, I thought it might be more. I cannot imagine this on tape. That'd be a nightmare. No.
Your ships will be joined by, was it, what did I send you? Was it Captain Bum on the USS Cock?
Yeah. Yes. The USS Cock.
There you go. I am on the flip side of this year. I quickly came to the conclusion this game was not for me. And it's literally because I just found it a bit bewildering. I entered 2-letter codes, and I wonder, and I could only picture myself wandering about the ship like a drunken buffoon, giving orders that made no sense, firing my guns at seagulls if there'd been any. I plotted courses that were of no use and never seemed to have anything happened. No, I couldn't. I don't know what was going
You were on a ship called the USS Cock.
Well, I was like in some just crappy 80s comedy, and it was just ridiculous. I don't know. I tried. I tried to get my head around it, but I just couldn't see anything. There's depth there, and I'm sure there's a really good game in. And obviously, you enjoyed this a lot more than I did, and that's cool. So for some, there is that this game is there, but not. It just it didn't flick my switches. It left me half mast and all other kind of puns I can come up with for
naval
sea
puns.
Stuff. Yeah. I was adrift in a sea of boredom. There was, the excitement of a scrolling message telling me that I'd reached my destination, which just seemed to be more nothing. And then the prospect of waiting for another screen to load, I was like, oh, it just turned me off. I thought, and like yourself, I put this, is this trying to be the naval version of Ace of Aces and Desert Fox and those kind of things? Are they looking at? And I thought, if it's not one, maybe they could have, it's stuck between two houses. I don't know whether the strategy side of it, I don't know, but it just, maybe it could have learned on how to make the game more interesting by looking at those two a bit, because both of those two are, are really enjoyable games, and I just found this, it was the to in and fro in and the loading just turned me off. Like you said, I can't imagine what this would have been like on cassette. It would have been an absolute bloody nightmare.
I can't imagine it.
But even just going from navigation to bridge to there to that, then firing my guns, which never seemed, I couldn't, nothing, wasn't for me. And I accept the fact that not every game will be for me. I can appreciate that there's quality production values here. It looks very nice, and everything about it is there, but it's not my cup of tea. But I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think I would recommend it if you like that kind of if you like these kind of simulations. I mean, I quite like Titanic in a similar way. Maybe it's just these kind of, because normally these games can become very boring very quickly if they don't have something to entice you in, and this does take a long time to get to those bits, I think, whereas games like Desert Fox and stuff, some of those get there a bit quicker and they're a bit more engaging, and the battles are a bit more instant. And this just doesn't quite have that, which is why I say it's more simulations, less action, and I think that's the kind of the playoff.
I think with you, it's the boats.
Yeah,
it's the naval thing. So I think if with this pace and not on boats, you'd have switched this off.
Yeah, it was but I think also I was ready to play something that wasn't a crap shoot 'em up.
Yeah,
I needed something. I mean, this and there's another game we'll come to, which were just totally different to everything else because we'd been battling some of these crappy. They're either crap or the shoot 'em ups and crap, or there's been just bad combos of things or bad licenses. These came along and they were just a bit of a refreshing breeze. There's this one. There's a few others that we'll come to, but this one,
yeah.
And I think I gave it a bit more dues. I think just because I was ready to just not look at something that angered me or killed me within 6 seconds. So it was nice.
This felt like it had thought and consideration behind it and was trying to do something. And I think you can appreciate that. And that's what I mean. I can appreciate that, even if I can absolutely 100% say this game is not for me.
Absolutely.
But I get the fact that it is well made.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that. So there you go. That's Destroyer. Right. So that's us done for this section. We've got a word from our sponsor coming up, and then we have a special snippet. I don't know how much to put it in, but we've got a special snippet from our interview that we did with Mr. John Hare. And the full version of that can obviously be heard if you sign up on our Patreon, which I haven't mentioned yet, so I'll just mention now. Our Patreon is over on patreon.com/zapped to the past. Go over there, chuck us the price of a beer if you're not in London, and get access to that, all the things. And some other bits and bobs, and join our Discord and whatever, I don't know. Go over and listen to it. But here's a snippet of that, so hope you enjoy this. We'll be back after the break, after our interview. Well, actually, we're in the interview, what are we on about? Then we'll be on with more games, so we'll see you soon.
Let's feel some love for our sponsor, DavidHearnWriter.com, where you'll find bargain books, ebooks, and audiobooks. This feels like a good time to listen to a sample of his awesome audiobook, Back in Time for a Donut, narrated by the supremely talented Lucy Dwyer.
She ported her phone to escape nonsensical reality for just a moment and played a role-playing game named Exiled Kingdoms, where she instructed a female character to run around and bash other characters. She smiled, mashed virtual buttons, then looked up. She weighed up one of her many virtual lives against her real one. Here, she was a much-respected cleric. Many of the non-player characters depended on her to complete various missions. The bad guys were easy to manage too. If a threat didn't do the trick, then a sword probably would. Real life, of course, wasn't so easy. Her humdrum insurance job paid the bills, sure, but she had to put up with people she didn't like while doing work she didn't want to do. She even had to listen to the boss when she sprouted her corporate nonsense. Worse, she was expected to feign interest.
Now that is what I like to call brilliant. So visit DavidHearnWriter.com to find out more.
All right. So let's go into some of these questions. Some of these are more, for those who you listen to us sort of thing, we're not always that serious, but hey ho, whatever it is. So we'll go with the serious ones. Let's start off with. So you made lots of games for C64. When was the last time you played some? When was the last time you played on a Commodore 64?
On a Commodore 64. Actually, probably not that long ago. Probably in a game show, like somewhere, like
right.
Pixel Heaven I go to every year in Poland because I heard you guys discussing music when I walked back in the room. But, I play in a band called The Sensible Band now. We used to be with Sid 80s, obviously. But we play a bunch of old Sensible Software music and some other stuff that I write as music. And that's a big retro crowd in Poland, which is great fun. So we get to do a gig once a year in Poland. The best music fans in the world, by the way, in my experience in Poland, if anyone Polish is listening. But they've got a bunch of games there, so I normally will play a couple of old games whilst I was there.
Do you have any particular favourites? Any go-to games?
On the Commodore 64? Not really. I used to have. I mean, I'll tell you what I did really like was Leaderboard on the Commodore 64 in the old days.
Mm-hmm.
I obviously Monkey Island was splendiferous. Was Monkey Island on the Commodore 64?
Did it come out? I think it was. I know it was Amiga.
Was it Leisure Suit Larry? Leisure Suit Larry was the Commodore 64 version of, for me anyway, of what Monkey Island became. Do you remember Leisure Suit Larry?
I know Leisure Suit Larry. Yes, it's got a reputation, hasn't it? Leisure Suit Larry.
Point-and-click adventure. Yeah, Leisure Suit Larry and California games I played on it, and what else? What was the Defender thing that Archer did?
Drop Zone.
Drop Zone, yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was reading your book, and you mentioned that you were playing very heavily into 2-player Drop Zone. We did not an episode on it, but we covered it some time ago.
Yeah,
and the response we had online to because obviously on the social media when we put about it was pretty extreme. When it's one of the first times we had a mass, because luckily we said we liked it because there's been times, John, when we've been controversial in our podcast. For example, the very first podcast, we decried that Elite was the most boring game known to man. Our opinion.
It's a little slow. It's a little.
Yeah, it was the first podcast and first game. It was some thought it was a bit of a statement of intent, but it was just the way it fell. Just what it was. So. Obviously, we've just reached a couple of your games. But we understand these, according to the book, these came out the wrong way round. You wrote Parallax first. Is this correct? I don't know. You were saying this earlier on.
Did
Graham.
Parallax come out? Did Galaxy Birds come out before Parallax?
Well, it's reviewed. It's reviewed before it. So we're going on the review date. So Galaxy Birds was in. It's in the. I think it's in the. Is it in the magazine before? It's definitely in the magazine before it. Yeah. So, we looked at Galaxy Birds first and then Parallax. So, was it just a release date from Ocean or something?
That's really odd because we finished Parallax completely and then did Galaxy Birds. Albeit it was very short. We did it in 1 or 2 weeks. It was just like Galaxy Birds was a joke game for us. It was like I don't know, just having a bit of fun before you got on with the next serious game, which in our case was Whizball. So, but yeah, it was definitely completed after Parallax. But Parallax was released by Ocean and Galaxy Birds was with BT. So whether BT just stuck it in a box as fast as they could, or Ocean dragged their heels, or a bit of both. I wasn't actually aware that Galaxy Birds came out before Parallax, and I'm not sure that it did. Even if it got reviewed beforehand.
Because we're basing all our stuff on what's in each month of Zap. So because it's so hard to go back and find actual release dates for anything with any kind of authority or any kind of accuracy, we just went, you know what, we're just going to look at what was reviewed that month.
Doesn't our book, have you got the Sensible Software book there, did you say?
Graham has, yes.
Graham, does the book say when the games were released? I think there's a...
Yeah, it's November for Parallax, but the review is in October in Zap, which I suppose they would have a preview copy. But Galaxy Birds is actually reviewed before all of that. But in the book, Galaxy Birds comes out after. It doesn't say when it comes out, but it's developed after Parallax. But it's
it was definitely developed after, and I'm pretty sure it was probably released just after. But who knows?
We put it down to the Firebird anomaly because we've come to know them as Fire Turd because pretty much every game they brought out between 1984 and 1986 up till now, with the couple of exceptions, very few.
Yeah,
they
just seem to publish anything. Literally anything.
Basically, what maybe it's hard to pick up is at Firebird. By the way, my wife was working at Firebird, so she's sitting upstairs, so don't talk too loud about Firebird.
Oh dear.
She's not been in the games industry for many years, but she was then, and that was her experience. The Firebird was budget games. Like there was games you buy for £1 or £2. Like Galaxy Bird was a budget game. That's why this is throwaway kind of experience. It was made as a joke. So is
it kind of like just a game jam game? That's what it sort of feels like as well, a little bit. Is it? kind of ethos.
If you think forward, I mean, if you look at our Amiga stuff, and you've got Sensible Soccer, and you've got like these cover discs when you had Apples versus Oranges or Sensible Soccer on the Moon or whatever we were doing then, or Canon Soccer. So what we tended to do at Sensible was fill in the time between the main games with these just kind of light relief things. On the Amiga time, by the time we got the Amiga, they had converted into doing cover discs because they then went on front of the magazines, which gave you more promotion and was a bit of fun for us as well. But in the Commodore 64 era, what we did with those fun games was they turned into budget games. So we did 3 budget games. We did Galaxy Birds, and we did a game called Oh No, which was a rip-off of I think it was a coin-op called Rustler. I think it was called Rustler. And then we did Insects in Space, which was a very Drop Zone-esque game, actually, which came out a bit later. And they were our 3 budget games. They were all just basically coin-op things. Like Galaxy Birds is obviously Galaxians with birds instead of spaceships. And that was about it. And it was like a joke with just like one lame little string on it, and that was it. But it was quite fun for us to do that, you know. I could draw some swans and robins and all sorts of fancy...
because I mean, you did all the graphics for those games, right? So you're just the graphics guy.
I did all the graphics for the first 7 years of the company, so probably about 8, 9, 10 games, yeah. Right the way up to Sensible Soccer was the last game I did the art on. Cannon Fodder, I didn't do the art on. That was the first one I didn't do it. So that's kind of like your line. But like,
what did you use to draw it? What tool did you use to even do that with?
Well, was it bespoke one or? It's a good question. So like, I used D-Paint for the Amiga stuff. When you go to the Commodore 64, I remember I had a koala pad, but the only thing I remember drawing in it, me and Chris, first before we set Sensible Software up, we worked with a company called LT Software, which was like a local company in Basildon, and we were just like young. We were 19 at the time, just doing sort of jobs for them. And I worked on this early version of International Karate, and I was given a koala pad to draw like mountains and things. But I can't remember the name of the tool that I used for my regular Commodore 64 graphics. I've never been able to remember the name.
So could you just do that stuff? Could you just draw pixel art quite well? Or are you a good artist anyway?
I'm still a good pixel artist. In fact, I look at, I don't use it very much. I use it only when I'm doing designs, I tend to use pictures a lot to describe what we're going to do, but mostly that's taking the screenshot that exists in the game, cut and pasting stuff and stretching it around. And I still use Paint, believe it or not, as my main tool of doing this. I can, if I want, do pretty reasonable pixel art still, but there's just not much demand for it. And frankly, I haven't got the time because of the other stuff that I do. But I do think that there's a lack of pixel art skills in modern games artists, actually, if I have to be critical. You know, it's too pedantic and fiddly.
It's a bit of a lost art, isn't it?
It's a bit of a lost art, but then I guess I'm trying to think of examples of things we don't do anymore. Portrait painting to the quality of Rembrandt's pretty much a lost art as well, you know? So some things get superseded.
some skills that we lose, we're just never going to get. I never had those skills to begin with. I can't even draw a decent stick man. So, and I really mean that. I can't. It's awful. For some reason, I went through years of drawing them, and then someone said, "Did you realise humans have necks?" So your arms don't just stick out from your neck, right? That's why they're bad stickmen. And people have elbows and knees. I'm like, oh, just leave me alone.
Oh dear. I'm not much better. I'm a coder, so I can't draw art. I can't even say it.
That's the coder cop-out. I'm a coder. It's the Star Trek. I'm a goddammit, Jim. I'm a coder, not a bricklayer.
Well, when it makes me feel better, I can't write a line of code and never have done. And I've always worked with guys like you, so it's made my life easier to not code. I think I'm happily blind to it. I just tear my hair out when it goes wrong. That's about it.
Yeah, and it often does. That's the problem. So can I? All right. So we talked about. So Galaxy Birds was this sort of palette cleanser thing after Parallax. So Parallax was your first game for the Commodore because you did Twister, didn't you?
Well, actually, technically no.
Oh no. Okay, go on.
No. So we took on after we did Twister on the Spectrum, which some people know of. Then we did.
It's a strange old game, that.
It's a strange game, yeah. It was a first original game, me and Chris working together. We'd been writing music for years beforehand, but it was the first game we'd done. But that was on the Spectrum. But then we got commissioned by LT Software to do another game, which was called Runestone. Was it called Runestone? Yeah, it's called Runestone. And it was a conversion of a text adventure, basically, on the Commodore 64. And actually, we made that game to get the $2,000 we needed to go on the government enterprise scheme to set up Sensible Software, interestingly, because we actually worked whilst we were unemployed, because we needed to be unemployed, and there was weird qualification rules. Anyway, so that was our first C64 game, which was really good for Chris to learn the technical ropes of how to use the machine. But Parallax was our first original, like, proper game on that machine. Yep, it was.
So was Runestone released, or was it out?
It wasn't released, no. It wasn't actually released on the Commodore 64. Someone actually sent me an emulator with it running about a year ago, which was amazing. So It was like you're in the forest, go north. You're in the forest, go north. You come across a little castle. It was one of those games. So, but then I did the graphics to support it, so you could see you getting closer and closer to the castle, and you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean. Okay, so that was your intro to the C64. Then you come to do Parallax.
Yeah.
And Parallax seems like, because I was reading the interview that you did with Zap earlier today. You did that, March '87 or whatever it was. Yeah. And it's interesting you're hearing you talk about Parallax back then, because there's a couple of questions here, which is what happened to Parallax 2, which was mentioned quite extensively in the beginning to that interview.
Oh, so there's nothing like. Yeah, where is it, John? Come on.
Yeah, where is it? Come on. I've been waiting 33 years from this interview.
He's never going to let that go.
Also, the other thing that I'm just interested in before we get to that, the other thing that I just like is you say that everyone wanted the technical aspects of it, but you had to cut a lot of stuff. I don't know if you can remember.
Yeah.
But what kind of things did you have to cut from Parallax that didn't make that cutting route, didn't make that final production?
Well, first I'll answer the Parallax 2 question. So Parallax 2 was launched into the universe and will land on the Earth in approximately 87 years. And it'll look extremely dated. But actually, in all seriousness, I forgot about Parallax 2 ever existing. So that's when Parallax 2 has actually died. In terms of the extra content, that probably relates to Parallax 2. So the Commodore 64, as you know, had limited memory, to the extent that my favourite little bit of Parallax is you get to the point where you get to the end of the whole game and you've got these computers, and then you resolve all the stuff and everything good. And then when you've finished it, the computer message is, we wanted to write a message saying, well done, you've conquered the Parallax world and everyone's safe and happy. But we didn't have enough memory to write a long message. So the message is system off, because there were all the characters we could use. And then the memory went out.
10 characters.
Exactly.
Wow.
That's how many levels are in Parallax? Is it 8?
I think it's 5. It's 5 worlds.
5 worlds. That's a lot to go through, and all that searching and robot shooting and convincing of the scientists.
For system off.
So, and then you asked me about the pieces that were missing from Parallax.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what was missing was really, obviously we had no memory. We only had this memory to write system off. So some of my suggestions I was chucking at Crest were like, no way, we haven't got enough memory. And there were things like when the spaceship lands and the guy gets out, just being able to do a lot more really with exploring the Parallax world. I mean, he gets these scientists and he drugs them and he goes to computers, but there was much more we could have done in terms of what you could buy from the machines and the computers, and where he could have explored and maybe going underground inside the base a little bit more rather than just a little room. So just wanting to do more with embellishing a whole big story around it, but there wasn't a chance. And that was probably why I was requesting Parallax 2 as an opportunity to express that stuff.
Right.
But,
okay.
We ended up doing Whizball instead, and that's history.
Loving spoonfuls to our show sponsor, DavidHearnWriter.com. I reckon we should have another listen to a sample from Back in Time for a Donut, narrated by the always lovely Lucy Dwyer.
Tara trembled as she came back into the pub and found Samira, who was now playing Pac-Man. The Pac-Man sat in a stationary position. The ghosts passed by her, but didn't get her. Tara watched over her shoulder. "Where did you go?" Samira asked. "Just needed some air. Oh, and I love, love, love Pac-Man. Wow. It's as though they can't see you." Samira grunted. "For years, I had to learn to be unseen. I barely existed. Looks like you've taught Pac-Man the same skill." Tara returned to their table and sat. Samira followed, leaving Pac-Man perfectly safe as the ghosts still searched in vain, the bug in their search pattern programming now being a source of amusement for those who knew the trick. Tara sipped from her beer glass with verve.
Definitely something special. Visit davidhearnwriter.com to find out more.
Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you.
Okay, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that little snippet there of our chat with John here. Like I said, go to the Patreon and you can
Put
hit
down
the
your
rest.
cross.
Go to the Patreon, put down your cross. Is your $5 enough?
It is.
It is. It will be enough, yes.
We can keep the place for you till Friday.
Can a Patreon be evil, Father?
Run. Right, anyway.
Yes, we've got more games. We've got another 7 games, and this is the last set of games from the mammoth
Epic.
triplicate episode that's covered issue 22 with all those games.
The Whopper.
So let's get into it. What's up first? Well, our first one is 995. This is a sizzler, one of the few sizzlers in amongst all these games. This is They Stole a Million. And so what is They Stole a Million? All right, so you play the boss, a crime genius on the make. And after reading the magazine The Underworld and finding out that a computerized database containing all kinds of nefarious data has been created, which is called SWAG, which is software for ambiguous gangsters. Which reminds me of No Disc.
Like it.
You decide it's time to get a crew together and take down some scores. So that's what this is. This is it's a gangster. Well, not gangster. It's a robbery simulator, I suppose, is the word for this.
8-bit
so the whole
Heat.
point. That sounds like a really, really bad porn film.
Or a really good one.
Ah, yeah. I got an 8-bit worth of heat for you. You want to hear my Sid Chip sing?
He's never going to stop pumping the pixels now.
Absolutely not. Oh, yeah. I'm going to let the Vic all over you. Only if you got a cold, though, and I'll just rub it in.
So dark. Yeah,
bit of
that's
Vic.
going to be... Don't get it in your eyes on all counts.
No, it really hurts. Anyway, where was I? They stole a million. Okay, so... so this is a crime simulator, but you are a crime boss and you've got to do robberies, which is kind of interesting because the way that this game approaches them is not arcadey in and of itself. Essentially it's a puzzle game. So how does this all work? So you have multiple stages to go through before you could even get to doing the robbery. You have to plan this all out. So first of all, you've got to pick where you're going to rob, and there are 5 places to rob. And I should have noted them down, but I didn't. But there's a jeweler's, there's an arts, there's an art gallery, there's gold bullion, there's loads of things. So there's different kinds of things to go rob, and they scale up in difficulty and in what you've got to do. And so that there's this nice scale of targets to go through. You have a starting budget of £50,000, and from that you can buy the blueprints for any one of those 5 locations. And from then you get info about that place. It tells you what it is. It tells you the background about it. So it's a jeweler's run by a couple of guys, and they don't really do much. They've been running this place for ages. So you get this information about that. From that point, you can buy the blueprints, and then from there you can spend more money. The blueprints cost you some money, and you can buy info on the location's security, on its alarms, or what loot there is to be robbed. This will cost more money. There's more info on them, so you have to decide how much money you're going to spend on getting the information out to enable you to sort of know where to go. So it might be information on the alarms around here, they're hidden behind a painting in the cafe or something like that. So it gives you information as to let you know where these things are. And obviously, spending more money means you've got less cash, because what the next stage is, you've got to then hire your team, and you can hire as many as you want. One of the things you do need, though, is a driver. So sometimes you can get by, if you're really good, you can just get by with a driver who's got a secondary skill, because there's 18 people to choose from, and they have 2 skills, and it can be a thug and a safecracker. It could be an alarm specialist and a driver. There's loads of different things. So all these characters have different things, and they all charge different amounts of money to hire them. Some are better than others, and they all want a percentage of anything that you manage to make off with. Once you've chosen your team, which can be you can have up to 4 people in your team, and with yourself, so there's a team of 5. You then have to pick your fence. So not like the electrified fences of Red Max. This is a fence where who is basically, you take all the stolen goods to them, and they transform it through their nefarious means into your ill-gotten loot. They turn it into money. And that's how you do it. But obviously they take a cut. So what you've got to factor into this is how much money you can get out of the place itself that you're robbing. And you have to stack that up against how much do I want to spend on the team, the fence, the information, because it's no good spending more money than you're going to get out of the place. Because you have to get the money back because you're going to need more money for the next heist, the next one along. So you need to be frugal. And so you can't go spend thrift happy and just hire all the best people because they're all going to take the money and you'll end up with nothing at the end of it, and then you won't be able to afford the next one, or you'll only be able to afford one bloke and you won't be able to do it. So once you've done all that, you move to the planning stage of this game. And so the planning stage is it's a top-down view, flick screen top-down view. You start outside the building with the door in front of you, and what you've got to do is for every member of your team, you meticulously plan every step that they take through the robbery. So it's kind of on a grid-based system. So every grid step takes 1 second. So you move and it's 1 second. So the first thing you've got to do is get the front door open generally. So as I did on my first few goes, when I kicked it off, I forgot to open the front door and all my robbers just stood there going, I'm all blocked. I didn't think of unlocking the front door. Damn it. Rewind back.
I'd like to have been in that bank when that happened there, watching all these bank robbers just run at the door and just stand there.
Yeah, it's just crazy, isn't it? It's the worst film ever. So every move takes a second, but that's just every step. As you move through the building, you plot their course and you wander them through rooms. If you come up to a closed door, you have to open it. You have to take all these things into consideration, because if you don't tell them to open it, they'll just stop. So you kind of have to, they're kind of like robots almost. You have to program them to do exactly what you want them to do. When you get to a safe or the alarm system or something that takes time, that takes more time. Depending on what their skill is how much time that takes. So you have a little clock that kind of counts up. So every it goes up a second. So if you get to the alarms and you're on like a minute 10 and it takes them 20 seconds, it'll just cut to minute 30. So what that means is that alarm will not be switched off until 1 minute 30. You've got to plan their routes, and once that one goes past, you can then, once the alarm's off, you can move them around and, try and crack into cases and things like that and try and break stuff open. There is security that wanders around, sometimes on a schedule, so you've got to take into consideration of that, hiding and making sure that if they're walking through somewhere, they don't see you. The more members of the team you have, the more you have to plan. Because every member of the team, this all happens simultaneously. So once the first one goes in, they open the door and they go in, your next one comes out the car, the next one comes out the car, it's like a clown car. They all come piling out and they all go planning in, and then you've got to spread them out through the establishment. Some establishments are much bigger than others. They scale up as you go along, and you've got to kind of plan it. So if you get somebody to a place before that 1 minute 30 where the alarm's going to go off, the alarm's going to be disabled, you've got to get them, you've got to tell them to wait. So they're waiting until 1 minute 31, which then they'll start to hack into stuff. But during that time where they're waiting, security may be coming wandering past. You've got to get them out of there and planning that to get them somewhere where security's not going to see them, and get them back so that you're not losing time, because you only have a certain amount of time before the police turn up. All this has to be planned meticulously to get your robbery going. Now, once all that's planned and you think you've got it down, as I did, but I forgot to open the front door, you can then just basically says play. And what you then watch is you watch all your henchmen or your hired, they just go off and you see them walk through. You can follow them and they'll walk through the building on the route you've given them, all doing their own stuff at the right time. And if everything goes to plan, you'll do this amazing robbery, which is like clockwork, and everything will just go off like, you just see all these bits happen. More often than not, it's a broken clock. And your men just wander around, get hung up on doors, seen by guards, the alarms don't go off in time, you misplanned something. What you can do, though, is that you can actually, midway through the action phase, so this phase where it's all kicking off, is actually say, right, I'll join in. And so you can then control yourself, you're and run in after them. And so if somebody's bodged something up, you can try and fix things and get it back on track. Use this is because it's all gone badly wrong. And that's what you've got to do. So the whole point is to try and rob as much as you can out of these places by using as least men as possible, and then get out and then progress to the next one. This is a brilliant, brilliant game. No two words around it. It's just a brilliant puzzle game. And I've not really played many games of this sort. It's unusual. It is really, really clever. It's really rewarding. It's a game that rewards your planning, your patience, your cleverness, your working stuff out. How do I get this? Yeah, it's a game you can learn, and there are, I found a guide online that'll talk you through it, how to do the best walkthrough and get the most money. Of course it is. It's a puzzle game. So there's always a way to solve the puzzle, like a Rubik's Cube. There's always a way to solve it. But the satisfaction you get from watching a piece of well-planned execution of a robbery play out in front of you in real time when it kicks off, there's very little on the C64 or any other machine I've experienced like it. It's a real proper testament to this. It uses, it's an 8-bit game, but it doesn't feel like one. It feels like a modern contemporary. You could see this working in modern on a mobile. This would work perfectly on a mobile, something like that, just dragging your player through and planning it all. You could just see it working very well, with some nicer visuals. The visuals and sounds are perfunctory, but they do their job. This is just a brilliant game. It's a quality entertainment. I would have said, from me, this is the gold medal of this issue. This should have been a gold medal because there's nothing like it, and it works perfectly. It is so, the presentation of the windows that all pop up as you're going through the different things. It's all really smooth. It's nicely presented. It's a really, really, really good game. And I wasn't sure because I've played it before. Me and my friend used to play it a lot on the Amstrad version and back in the day because I didn't have this on the C64. And so I wasn't sure if it was going to stand up or whether I'd like it, but I found myself playing this quite a lot. And I know I'm going back to this because I found, oh God, yeah, I remember how good this was. And that notion of I'm just going to get a notebook and I'm planning the times and I'm doing it. I'm going in. I'm going to rob these people blind. I love this. This is ace. How about you?
Yeah, no, same. I thought this was an incredibly clever game. Now, this wasn't one that it was one that I'd seen the adverts for and I'd heard the music. Classic, really, because I think at this point, some of these games like this are just skipping me back in the day. So for whatever reason, that just didn't, this never came across my radar at all. So I came at this with nice, fresh eyes on the back of playing the Sailing the Seven Seas in Destroyer. And what you're presented with is a very clever game. Really nice use of icons and interface. Totally different to what you'd expect, but intuitive, fast, and you're able to just do quickly what you need to do. The whole planning process, compared to, for example, going into, I know it's a stupid comparison, but comparing this to sort of the beginning of the surf game where it presented you with all those options, all of these, it's just no different in the sense that you're presented with options for your robbery and picking your target and your team and your fence and all the rest of it. But it all makes contextual sense. It helped. I've downloaded the manual, so I was able to sort of know what was what and everything else. And the manual's really good for this because it gives you a nice breakdown of loads of stuff. So that set the benchmark. What a great idea for a game to start off. And to think actually, because they could have just taken this in a stupid direction. So some crappy running about platformer or some going left and right arcade adventure. No, this is a really unique strategy-based approach to something that really is clever. When you're planning meticulously planning your robbery, it's a really good vibe to when you actually click the sort of start button and things start to happen and everything else. I never managed to successfully commit to any robbery, but I'm the worst team of robbers in the world. But that said, you know what? You've got all those different people and skills to choose from. You could, really mix this up and try different approaches. You could play an entire route through this. You can also load and save your teams as well. So if you've got a successful team, obviously you can save that and then you can, load that back in. There's a lot to like here. A very clever game that it might lack the direct attack of other games. And by that, I mean that, it doesn't hit you in the face with the loads of, razzmatazz and powwow. It's not doing it that way. This is one of those games where it invites you in, you select your parameters, and it takes you on a really nice journey that you can start to get better at and start to think. And there's genuine panic when you're watching that go off and things start to go wrong. It's a really, really clever game in a sea of such nonsense and bad licenses and all the other stuff. As with Destroyer, this was such a nice breath of fresh air. A really clever, interesting game. Good music as well. Everything about it. Really good. I think it deserved gold medal, I have to say. I think it was tragic that this got 90% because it deserves a lot higher than that. 95 or something like that. This is great. This is really great.
There's nothing else like it, and they seem to, like we looked at the Sentinel and Alter Ego. This is doing something completely different. I've not played anything that does this kind of, and the way that it sort of tracks your, because you can do a massive series of events, and then it's like it's all gone wrong. I need to go back, and it's all recorded. I don't know how they're doing this. It's very clever.
It's very it's just someone like you've said. You said about Druid actually. You know what? A game designer got involved, a really good game designer who sat down and said, you know what, and they just planned this game, and then when they planned it well, they made it well, and they stuck to their plan. They didn't try and throw in loads of stupid nonsense or hierarchical stuff that make no sense. Everything in this game makes sense to be in this game in the way it is. And it works because of that. And they stuck to those core principles. And when you do that, you end up with They Stole a Million, a really great little strategy. For it to be driven by windows and icons in that kind of way, up until when you start planning stuff, I know, but just to have the commitment to your game design to just think, actually, I'm going to make it so you plan it this way, and this is how it's going to work. Fair play to them. Great little game, that. Really, really enjoyable. Well worth 10 quid, that, of anyone's money at the time. Now, definitely, if you got the opportunity, go and play that. And as you rightly point out, that is surely waiting for a mobile or a modern version. Yeah. Goodness me, is it? Goodness. It probably is like, one that we're not aware of.
Probably. It's like Italian Job, the movie, isn't it?
It is like that. I mean, I likened it a little bit, joking aside, it felt a little bit like Heat, the film Heat, where you've got a team that's put together and, they plan in that robbery and they buy the blueprints and they've got an out and all of that stuff. And it felt a little bit like that. And I liked it for that. It was genuinely good. So no, I thought it was really, I think easily the best game of this issue of Zapped by a mile. Certainly one of them, but if not the best. Really good fun, really good, enjoyable.
Yeah, good. There we go. It's a good one to start on. Let's see if things keep to a similar high level. I'm sure they will with our next game. Or will they?
No.
Okay. Are you Anthrax sung about this guy?
They did
recently, and so Graham, tell us what it's like being. We've had the Cure. Now let's have the Law, and tell us all about Judge Dredd.
So, Melbourne House. Melbourne House.
Melbourne House.
Melbourne House. Why have you done this shit in a frying pan of a game? So
and cooked it and tried to serve me it.
This is a shitty pancake of a game. It is.
You flip this and it's going to stick to the ceiling.
It's going to stick to something. It's based upon the incredible 2000 AD Judge Dredd characters. Now, I'm saying it's based upon because if you didn't know that, if that wasn't made obvious to you straight away, you wouldn't necessarily know by looking at it, other than it's got a half-assed picture of Judge Dredd. Judge Dredd, and I'm not going to go into the whole what is Judge Dredd about. At the end of the day, the world lives in these giant megacities of various different numerical designations. Megacity 1, the law has gone mad, and it's anarchic world that they live in, and it's controlled by the various judges. The judges are walking policemen / judges / judge, jury, executioner type mentality, who essentially are a police force of a type, but they go in and they make the decisions about whether the criminal is going to be judged there and then. If they are judged, and they decide what outcome it's going to be, and that can be anything between punched in the face or shot dead. And they have the right to do that because they're the judges. And there's there's a whole load more to that world. I mean, that's less than surface level, but because this game deserves no more time spent to me discussing the great merits of 2000 AD, I'm not going to go into that. So this game presents you with a bit of that logic. So the idea of this game is that you've got to apprehend criminals in the 2000 AD world. They're known as perps, perpetrators, I'm guessing. And you basically have to go around and stop them. So you've got 3 options to deal with them as you come across. You can halt them by shouting halt. You can fire warning shots, and you can fire and shoot them. If you decide to shout halt, it actually does like a speech bubble appear. I don't even know why I'm explaining the stupidity of the game. The game is played out over. You start off as with a map, and I thought when it first appeared that you were choosing the sort of where you were going to go, which area of the city you were going to go, with what looked like a giant hairdryer, but it's actually his motorbike. It's Judge Dredd and his motorbike, because he actually has I forget the name of his motorbike. Lawmaster, I think, is his motorbike, isn't it?
Is that? Yeah, Lawgiver is the gun, isn't it?
Yeah. So he's got a Lawmaster, his motorbike. Lawgiver's a gun. So in this game, when you get there, so you choose your level, and then after that, it's just kind of a running around platforms, blocky, horribly coloured platforms in some kind of blocky rendition of Judge Dredd-ish colours, and I'm not even sure. Very blue and yellow, which I think pretty sure it's actually dark blue and gold, I think, and perhaps more dark colours of those type for the real Judge Dredd. But this version is just some sort of garish nightmare with really crappily drawn graphics. Then you can run around and you can actually choose. You've got different bullets that you can fire from your gun. Famously, the Lawgiver, the gun, can shoot normal bullets, armor-piercing bullets, incendiary bullets, ricochet bullets, high-explosive bullets, and heat-seeking bullets, of which you can choose those in this game by selecting keys 1 to 6. So you can actually choose which kind of bullet. It doesn't really matter Because out of the 3 options, by the way, to control the halt, warn, and kill level, you actually use left shift, right shift, and space. So there's an array of keyboard commands that you've got to use, as well as frantically running left and right, voiding enemies and shooting at stuff and running about. And the game just doesn't make much sense because it's just such a clutter of stuff flying about that really is badly rendered into view. At the bottom of the screen, you get like a panel which indicates the type of crime, and it gives you an idea of the whereabouts and the kind of weapon information, such as this, which is little icons at the bottom left. And if there's more, because you've got to run around and try and solve these crimes by basically killing the person doing them. If there are more than 8 crimes occurring at any point throughout the city, then that's the game over and you lose. So you've sort of got to run around doing that. There's also robot dogs. I'm not sure what purpose they serve, and I'm not sure if they kill you. I just need to run past me, and I run past them a lot. So I wouldn't profess to be the greatest Judge Dredd fan in the world, although I did have a 2008 annual back in 1981, because I remember it said on it, Splundig Verthrix Squax Des Thargo. I don't know what it means, but that's what it said on it. So for some reason, I remember it to this day.
You wash your mouth out.
Splundig you. I'll splundig you. So I've put from the discordant screeching audio that claws at your ears to the badly blocky, badly drawn Judge Dredd image. My first impressions weren't very good. You then find yourself over a yellow blocky map with a hammer drill trying to choose your destination. You're then thrust into a brown world of brown with horrible blocky platforms where you just run around seemingly aimlessly and shout halt at things periodically. This is just horrible. It's a horrible, horrible game. It's truly awful. Now, this is it's another blocky Melbourne house turd. And just when you think they can't wipe their ass on any more licenses at the moment in these various different games, this happens. So it's just bad beyond belief. This is a skid mark of licenses. It is truly awful. I don't think I'm ever going to forget the shrill sound of that audio. It's just something else. It's horrible. This game is just awful in every capacity. Now, I know what, I'm not going to go into a long diatribe, which I could. I'm not going to go into a long diatribe about the way that this license has been treated. They royally cocked this up because 2000 AD and that whole idea of that world and that game is such a strong setting for a game of some description. And other games do come from that 2000 AD world later, Nemesis the Warlock and a number of others. And I think there's even a better version of a Judge Dredd game later down the line, let alone films and all the stuff. There's such good grounding and footing for this. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Judge Dredd, but even I was offended. And that tells you a lot. So for someone that I know you do, that really likes Judge Dredd a lot, I can only imagine this is like, they just literally parted their arse cheeks and farted in your mouth. So I hated this. I think it's absolutely awful. And I don't think they should have given it 13%. I'd have been putting this in the lower 4s and 5s and really slapping Melbourne House across the face and saying, this is shit. And you should not be making games like this. You are taking advantage of people yet again. And it needs to stop because this is getting stupid now. This is another license that is just an abomination and it deserves no more of my attention. And I suspect, and I have a funny feeling, this may very well have pissed you off, this game. But what do I know?
Oh, and then some. You know, in a strange twist of fate, just having a look on 1164, someone's put the scores up from other magazines, and in keeping with their other scores, this got 8 out of 10 in CNVG.
No, them and all they stand for.
Yeah, this did. It didn't make me angry so much as just like I couldn't get angry because it is so bad. And I know I know you were angered by Scooby-Doo last time. I think my propensity to be angered at these games sort of thing is just wearing away. I'm just getting worn down by them. It's just, I'm like, it's just crap, innit? I put, how do you mess up Judge Dredd so badly? And, similar to what you've read, in a sea of licensed rubbish, this is another shining turd of awfulness. There's so much scope. I'm not going to talk about the game. You've spoken about it. There's nothing more to say about it. But, there's so much scope in the Judge Dredd universe to do almost anything you want. And you know what the games this reminded me of? First of all, there's 2 games, bad and good. It reminded me of that Basildon Bond game.
Yes, actually, yeah. I can see
and that nonsense. And no one ever wants to be reminded of that Basildon Bond game from something else. It's just, you just don't want that. It's awful that music. It's what the is it?
I tell you what, I'm pretty sure that was created by a bloody one of them creatures that whistles and kills pigeons.
It's Neil Brennan, wasn't it? Yeah. Fist 2 and all the other stuff that Melbourne House do. So it's this, normally they're okay, but this is, it's like it's a nail being forced into your skull. And then it reminded me that we've had this, and it's much better. We had Mission AD.
Yes,
because this is a shit Mission AD.
It is, yeah.
Because you're different parts of the town chasing criminals and perps. We had that. That's Mission AD. We've done it, and that's that shows you that this could have been okay. And I'm not saying that you just slap the Just Dredd visuals on Mission AD, but essentially what you've got is a futuristic place where you're chasing down assassins and what have you and bad guys. And there you go. There's Just Dredd almost. If you want to do it that way, you do it like Mission AD. Because this is just an insult to the license. If I were 2000 AD at the time, whoever owned it, and everything, I would have been flying around the other side of the world and asking what the fucking hell they were doing. Because this is, like you said, I'm a big fan of Just Dredd, always have been. I love the style of it, the attitude of it, just the great stories that reside within it. There's so many of them that you could have chosen from. To just drop this crap is, let's speak no more of it, because I could, and you could, and we could, but it's not worth it, is it?
No,
it's not.
Give it no more credence. I mean, the one refreshing thing is, I actually went and looked, because I thought maybe this was such crap, but maybe on other machines it was better. It wasn't. I looked at the Spectrum version, and it was even worse, if that's even possible.
God,
it's a crap game all around. Badly made. Bad. You're bad, Melbourne House. Bad. Yeah, it's really bad.
Yeah.
Just crap.
Yeah. Like Melbourne House, Ocean. Just these companies on a sort of shit cruise. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
I do notice, by the way, that our level of swearing is going up inversely to the crapness of the game.
It is, but you know what? I do bleep out the any of the real swears. It's just
I know you do. I know. But it's just, I've just noticed that earlier on we were like, now we're just like, God.
Well, I think we have to, because I tire of these, I'm exhausted by these depressing licensed games, because I know full well that there's more to come, and these are just this one in particular. It's a really shocking example, really bad.
Yeah, really bad. Let's move on.
Yeah,
let's move on. Because next up, we've got budget title. We've not had many budget titles, but we've got a budget one here. It's got 69%. This is Molecule Man. So what is Molecule Man? It's a Mastertronic game, I believe. And you are Molecule Man, which is strange, actually, because you're not a man. You're a round blob with legs stuck in it, sticking out, and you're a single color flick screen isometric adventure.
Yeah, I just shivered.
Words that strike fear into the heart of all Zapped to the Past listeners.
I've just shuddered.
Because you can probably guess what's coming up. Just fast forward for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Anyway, you have to find 16 circuits or something to get a teleporter to work to allow you to get out of this radioactive single color maze of hell. And so it's another one of those. We haven't had one of these for a few weeks, a few months maybe, but we've got another one here. So think your Silus, think your Chimeras. It's that. That's what it is. But to stay alive, because you are in this radiation, whatever, you've got to constantly pop anti-rad pills. You have 20 to start with, and more can be obtained from vending machines from around the maze. There's 200 screens of this nonsense to make your way around, and it's really slow. It was really, really painfully slow, because the C64 doesn't like this. It's clear that the C64 doesn't like this, but this, I think, belies it. I think this was probably a Spectrum game and ported over.
I don't doubt that.
It looks like a Spectrum game. It feels like a Spectrum game. It smells like a Spectrum game, and I think that's what it is. So, yeah, there's also, weirdly enough, a level editor, which you can create your own mazes in, and then you can save them and play them in the game. Did you ever go at it? No, I didn't. I had a crack. I thought, I'll have a look. It's really fiddly and really awkward, and it's not joystick controlled, which... So you have to use, and it's like Spectrum. It's I can't remember what it's Q and A and P and O to move left and right. So it was just belaying its Spectrum heritage of keys. And I just quickly turned it off. And if I thought, well, if I'm going to play this, Boulder Alley construction kit's been out already, showing you how to do a construction something. You know what to do. I get it though. It's £2. This is £2 of okay. If you like. I don't think it's any good. It's a 2D isometric, it's 3D isometric slow-a-thon. It's slow and it stinks of Spectrum to me, and that's what I thought. That's what I thought about you, Harvey. What did you think?
I thought this was a high-res isometric nightmare. The pace was really slow with a really stupidly annoying walking sounds. So everywhere you walk, it goes dip 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 dip. It's like, oh, that is going to annoy me very quickly at this pace. Controls from the dark side, definitely just stupid keyboard controls. And I thought this was about as much fun as watching a horse drown.
So watching Neverending Story?
Yeah. So it's at that level of fun, where you're just watching some poor defenseless animal just slowly sink into a swamp, and there's nothing you can do about it, and you're just gonna have to watch it struggle and as its eyes just go underneath the sand, slowly blinking its last blinks. That's this game for me. I thought it was just, you know what? If you like slow isometric games and you like the puzzles that come with those, all the fill your boots, for $1.99 it probably is manna from heaven, maybe, if you like it. I just think it's too slow to be playable. The C64 doesn't do these games very well. Good riddance. And this is not a game that I'm ever going to like, or any derivatives of it. So, and yes, the mount looked a little bit like an egg, and that's always a good thing in a game, but not in this one.
It is, yes.
So, no, Molecule Man, at least it was $1.99, that was my thought, which is the only saving grace for it, is that it's not an expensive game. But if you were going to pass a Sunday afternoon with this, I mean, you need to plan some time ahead. That's going to take the whole of your day just to get through a few of the screens. It's so ploddy and dull. No. No good. No good. C64 doesn't do these games very well. We've seen it time and time again now. No good.
No good at all, no. Let's move along, because that's Molecule Man. We've still got 4 games to come.
We do.
So let's move into our next one. Is it any better? Graham, is it any better? Is the nicely named, I like the name, Arctic Fox.
Yes, it's a great name.
Does the name lead us to a good game?
Well, no.
Let's find out.
No, it doesn't.
Oh.
No.
Oh.
Well, no. No, it doesn't. This is another follow-up to another early C64 game. So this is actually a follow-up to 1983's Stellar 7. Now, I don't know if you played 1983 Stellar 7 on the C64.
Never heard of it.
Well, I didn't till I dived into this. So I thought, well, I better go and play it then, see what it's like. If you remember the arcade Battlezone, so it's that vector-based game. So Stellar 7 was essentially a remake of that for the C64. Made by the same company, Dynamic, same person, Damon Sly. So that was Stellar 7 was a kind of a remake of Battlezone, using vector graphics as well. So as we know from our mini attempts at this on the C64, there's only really been maybe 1 or 2 games that manage it just. Vector graphics on the C64 are something that it doesn't do very well. No difference for this one then. So this was actually, Arctic Fox was developed for the Amiga. So this is yet another D-port. Now we know that these D-ports have fared well, haven't they? Starglider was great. Wrong. That was also a vector-based D-port. Stupid thing to do, to try and take a 16-bit game that uses filled vectors and speedily and put it into a machine that's completely incapable of delivering that thing. So the game itself is set in a fictional 2005. So it makes me laugh when these games are like, it's even old now, and that was the future then. Mad. The future is taken present in the past, literally there. So, and the aliens have taken over Antarctica. So, tactical error there, right? Wrong, just talk about landing in the wrong bit. And they're attempting to steal the Earth's oxygen. Just seems to be the most difficult place to do it from, but never mind. That's why maybe it's easy there. So you've got to enter the situation with your new super tank, the Arctic Fox, and go and stop them from doing so. So you control the tank as you pilot into the enemy territory with the goal of knocking out the alien bases and taking down the aliens. The aliens are all represented in this game as they were in the original Stellar 7 in Vector Style. You can even go through and view them in Vector Style by going through and viewing them in when you click on the button to see the sort of catalogue of spaceships and tanks and things that all look completely identical in a different geometric order. And so it's tank with long cannon, tank with short cannon, spiky thing that flies around and goes, and it's just a sea of vector nonsense. So when you do go through that, think, wow, am I going to come across these things? Not in any meaningful way, you're not. Now, in amongst all of this, so when you're in your Arctic Fox tank, you're equipped with cannons and guided missiles and landmines. You're outfitted with radar, GPS. You've got a varying array of screens in front of you. And the vantage point for you is the cockpit of the Arctic Fox tank. You've got some GUI around you, which gives you an indication of things like, so you've got a target reticule in the middle, and then around you, you've got some indications of direction, the oxygen levels, obviously you're running against the clock and a game time clock. You've got some damage indication. And then bottom left, you've got the weapons control, which are accessed via your keyboard. So you've got guided missiles, you can drop mines, you can do the rear view and change your cannon inclination, reverse, and you can even hide and stuff like that. Essentially, you then shuffle around this landscape kind of vector slow. So, it's fast when there's nothing there. Then as soon as a vector thing appears, it's like, chuk, 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 chuk. So you play in that kind of, and those are the parameters of the game. You have to just, this game is going to do that. There's no, because it's mathematically challenging for the Commodore 64 to try and do this. So it's really trying to push the 64 into a very uncomfortable area because it just doesn't do this kind of stuff very well. So it's a challenge because you've got to get past that kind of dull shuffling around. Now, if you can, and there are some really nice, interesting AI strategic things that happen in the context of this game. So in amongst all of the logic of the game, there's some clever stuff going on. It's inherited from the Amiga, the clever stuff. So it's got sort of You know, they will follow you. The enemies will follow you around, and they'll try and hide, and they'll try and flank you, and they'll do stuff that's unusual for a game of this type. You're never going to really experience any of that because it's slow. No, you won't, because it's just so slow, and you're slow chugging around that it's ridiculous. I mean, you can even, like, there's a view in this where you can fire a missile and follow the missile from the missile's viewpoint, so you can sort of look out the missile tip, if you like, camera on it. What? But why? It's all good if you're on a 68,000 processor that has the capability to make that view interesting. This is an 8-bit C64. It doesn't have the capability. I don't care how good you are at coding. This is too much of a mathematical challenge for a C64's 6510 processor and VIC chip. It's just not going to be able to render this properly. And so it doesn't. The loading is mentioned in Zapped. I didn't encounter any loading issues because I'm using an emulator, so it may have elided that. But according to Zapped, you know, it's this terribly tedious loading that goes in and out of this game. And so for me, this is yet another deport of an Amiga game. Unnecessary on the C64. Starglider's only just come out. This is like another crap Starglider for me. It's pretty much the same idea. It's a Battlezone-ish type thing, well out of its depth on the C64, unplayably slow, totally uninteresting to look at, and crap. Ultimately, crap. It shouldn't have been done. A deport, a bad move, bad game, bad. Did you like it, or did you only like the name?
I like the name. That's about it. Boring nothing of a game that tries to do something with Battlezone and ends up doing very little of anything. There's a white landscape and the slow vector tanks meandering around, which I shot and blew up. Yeah. I never saw any kind of AI. I didn't see anything clever in this. They've tried to put in some extras with missiles and the like, but nothing here is good. The vectors, they're recognisably tanks. I guess is the best you can say, but it's nice. The landscape, though, is so bland and slow, and it's turgid. It's not so much Arctic Fox as, Snow Sloth.
Yes, it is.
Or something, because it's nothing fast or anything about this. And it made me actually go off, and there's a game which they reference, and we could have covered it, but it was a...
Was that Encounter?
It was actually mentioned in Zap. It was reviewed in Zap, but it was a Pass Blaster, so we didn't look at it. So maybe we need to go look at that and look at that Mooncrester. Maybe dig some of these old ones out that we've actually sort of skipped over that we've not gone back and look at. Because Encounter is, the best version of Battlezone on the C64 by a country bloody mile, because it's fast and it's solid 3D and it's really quite impressive for its time. 1984. So really. Paul Wokes in it, who did Mercenary. So it's very cleverly done, and it's just worth a look at. But it's way. I mean, this is just. It's just slow and boring. I wasn't aware that this was a deport from the Amiga. I wasn't aware.
It was one of the first titles that came out on the Amiga.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I think it was almost a launch title, I think, for the Amiga.
All right. Well, I wasn't aware of that, but it does show, because it's boring and dull, and I'm just fed up with these vector boringness. We had Starglider, and now we've got this, and it's just stop it, please, stop making me play these. I'd rather we had 40 games this month. To be fair, I'd rather we had 3 games this month, but hey, but the amount of crap we've played.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't like Arctic Fox. I thought it was dull and boring and just as much fun as looking at a wasteland of snow would ever be.
Yeah.
There you go. That's Arctic Fox, 35%. Probably about right. Let's move on. To people that come from cold places, because next up we've got the Vikings. Throwing his axes up the thingy and climbing up them. Yeah. I don't think this is his name, but it might as well be. I've called him Jonas Ramboson.
Yeah, there is a Rambo-ish quality to this.
There's a hint of Rambo to this game, shall we say? Because so here you are, Jonas Ramboson, son of Rambo, and you have decided, being the custody of a Viking, that you are going to plunder the castle that exists on Death Island. Now, there are probably more nicer castles on Pleasanter Island, like Moonlight Island, Cherry Island.
Summer Isle. Actually, don't go to Summer Isle. They'll burn you alive.
Oh, God, no. Yeah, they will do. Yeah, and dance. Anyway, so off you sail, you land on the shore, and it's Rambo. So anyway, no, it's not. It's not Rambo. It's this game. This is Viking Rambo. I don't know how else to say. You run around the island, and it's really strange. But it's because it's a strange logic to this game. The first thing, you can't do anything. The visuals are weird, sort of thing, because it looks like while he's been on his boat, he's really been stuffing himself with a lot of fish.
He does,
because he's a portly Viking running around. First thing you got to do is find a sword. And it's that thing again where you're firing swords at people. We had this in something else. There was another game where you shot swords at people for no reason. Was it a ninja game? I can't remember. And then you got to find a shield, and then you have to find a ladder, which allows you to get the torch, which allows you to burn
the villages down.
build villages down to find a mast and an ore, which then allows you to sail to the next island. I never found I think I got to the ladder and I was burning down some things and I died. It's a blatant Rambo clone. The way that the enemies are, they run about. It's just Rambo.
It looks like Rambo.
It's just a Rambo clone wearing Viking trousers, but it's not as good as Rambo. The visuals are okay. The enemies wander around randomly lobbing spears in your direction. There never seems to be a great deal of logic to anything. It's just mindless. It's just literally mindless. There's no thought or cohesion to any of this at all. There's a decent tune though, which was playing, which was all right. But after a while, you're just wandering around in this sort of strange game. And I'd go play Rambo. I mean, Rambo, we were not 100% positive on Rambo, but we agreed that it was playable and okay. This just feels like a poor Rambo clone. And so I'd just rather go play that and I'd turn this off. There's things about this that it's certain routes you have to take to get things. You kind of go down things. Some nice bit, walking behind things, and there's some nice graphical touches. But in the grand scheme of things, it's just a Rambo clone. And it's not like we've seen loads of Rambo clones, but Rambo is a variant of Commando. Mm-hmm. So we're getting these kind of things. And so, okay, set it with Vikings. So it's like what we said about LA SWAT. You're just dressing up another concept in some different graphics, and that's what you've done here. And you've tried to, but the weird logic behind this is all over the place, and none of it makes a lick of sense. And I don't even know really what it's got to do with Vikings.
No.
So it was all right. I think 55%. Yeah, probably somewhere around the 50s. It's not terrible. It's okay, but it's just go play Rambo. I don't know. Did you enjoy your time as Jonas Ramboson?
But it's like a weird Nordic Rambo. Straight away, it looks like Rambo. I mean, you can't get away from it. As soon as it starts, it's like, as soon as it started and I had the two players running at me from sort of the diagonally from, I was like, this feels like Rambo. Then as soon as I saw the trees and the way the village was off to the left and it was in...
Yeah.
I was like, this is Rambo. They've clearly borrowed some design from Rambo here. Now, I wouldn't go as far as to say that they'd nicked code or anything like that. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. I don't know. But it did feel a lot like Rambo. A little bit too much. Yeah, the sprites are different, but so and I think he throws knives in Rambo, doesn't he? I believe.
Oh, you got different weapons.
That's what I mean.
You've got
So
bow and arrows,
throw swords. I don't know. So yeah,
I get throwing a knife rather than throwing a sword, though.
Yeah,
knives are small.
Yeah, but you don't have an infinite supply of them. Anyway, it doesn't matter, does it? Swords even worse. Matter. So it's kind of a run around and, do this. It's Rambo in Viking clothes is what it is. There are some nice little touches here and there. Like you say, the graphics are okay. Nothing special. It's a 55% all day long. It's neither offensive, not terrible. It's a bit pricey for what it is, maybe. But there's worse full price games we've seen. The music's Ben Daglish, I think. And the music's quite good. It's okay. If you like Rambo type games, if you like your Who Dares Wins, Rambo, LA SWAT, if you like that kind of cluster of games where you do this kind of thing where you're a sprite running around shooting at the sprites, doing stuff like spritey things do, you're going to like this Viking variant. So I suppose it's decent enough. 55%'s about right. It's kind of it's very mediocre game in a sea of average. It's a very average game. There's nothing great about it. It's nothing terribly offensive about it. It's just average. But it's not a great version of that kind of game. There are better, as in Who Dares Wins or Rambo is better than this. But if you like that kind of thing, if you fancy sticking on a Viking helmet and getting all Nordic, go do it. Go to it. But there's a lot of like you say, there's no point in this being a Viking game. It has no Viking iconography other than a horned helmet and some huts, which is a little bit offensive, really, for the old. It's a bit of a Viking stereotype. The whole, running around with, throwing swords at people, setting fire to huts, and raping and pillaging and all the stuff that that isn't what it was about. They were essentially fishermen settlers. They were anyway. Let's not get into a historical battle about the Nordic consistency of this Rambo.
It was made
clone.
by it's the guy. I think it's made by. Apologies to our scanner. It's Soren.
No, I think it's
Torben Backager. So I think
they've tried something, and I admire them for trying something. But this reminds me of when a student turned up with that game where they were, it was the game where there was. I won't even describe the idea, but you'll know the game it was when there was certain people trying to cross a certain borderline, and you were the police trying to shoot them off the fence. And there was the student that turned up who'd made that game, and we had to make him change it to zombies because it was like you can never make that game happen again. And so
I
it
don't
just
remember
ended up
seeing
being
that. I don't think I ever saw that.
ended up being a zombie shooter game as opposed to it was called the name of the original game was Mexican Madness. That just gives you an idea of the
God.
yeah, exactly. So it was changed at the end to something completely different. And thankfully, we stepped in with the decency police and was like, excuse me, you just can't do that. But so this isn't like that. I have to say, it's nothing as offensive as that. But it's just Viking for Viking's sake. There could have been Nordic runes, and there could have been a bit more Viking-y stuff, and they could have really layered it into that, and that might have given it a bit more weight in terms of its credibility in the Viking world, because it would have looked less like Rambo if they'd have done a bit more of that. But it is what it is, and for 55%, it's about right. So there you go.
Here we go. But that's the Vikings with no Burt Lancaster or Tony Curtis in sight, which is a shame. Anyway, let's move on. We have... This isn't an arcade conversion, is it?
No, it is not.
No, it is not. But tell us all about... What's this, 1943, 1 year later, 1 year after?
So, yeah, 1 year, yeah. 1 year later, yeah. Or as Zapped called it, 10 minutes later. They said they should call it 1942 10 minutes later.
Because we've only done 1942 about 3 weeks ago, didn't we?
Yeah, exactly. So this is basically a rip-off of 1942, essentially. This is coded by somebody called Bernd Aalbach. But get this, designed by Grieve Graphics. So I'm just going to leave that there.
That's craptured, isn't it?
Yes, it is. We're just going to park that. So this is a crap 1942 clone. Now, the 1942 itself wasn't a particularly good version of 1942 on the C64. So they've come along with this, and they haven't made it one louder. They've just made it one crapper. It's the same basic logic. So you are an aeroplane flying over Midway, shooting stuff. This has a thinner play area than the actual 1942, because one of our complaints of 1942 on the C64, that it was too fat. It was too fat and wide and not tall and thin, which the arcade is obviously tall and thin, a different ratio, in fact. And that gives you more screen real estate to maneuver and do things. When it's wide, you can't do that. So this tries to mitigate that by shrinking the play area to a sort of a chunk of the screen. Okay, that's a reasonable response. And then puts a map-ish down the side. That's a reasonable response to that problem. Okay. It's not really a map, though. It's just it just looks like someone.
It's like the map from Flash Gordon.
It is. It's just bogies. It's just bogies on the side of the screen. It's just flying over bogies. Gives you a sense of what bogey you're over, but there's no indication of anything else on it. And so you fly over the main screen. So obviously you are flying an aeroplane, and you've got to shoot the airplanes that come at you in different waves and patterns. A la 1942. So it's got that 1942 logic. All the graphics are smaller in this, and also much more difficult to see. So the main sprite player is okay. There's a really well animated loop-the-loop, but the loop-the-loop's so short.
It's overly animated.
Well, it is, but if that loop-the-loop is such a tight loop, that G-force would actually snap your pilot's neck like a chicken. So it's like a dangerous maneuver. It's not going to help you. That's actually just going to kill the pilot. So you've got this thinner play area. The game plays out on that. The graphics are smaller, very difficult to see. You're mostly attacked by silhouettes in this. So the airplanes that attack you are just complete black silhouettes that fire black dots. And I suppose it's a cop-out way of not having to really draw anything, because you're just drawing shadows of things, really.
Yeah.
And they fly around in formation, as black silhouettes do. So you're kind of menaced by them, really. You can shoot at them, and it's just, it's a rip-off of 1942. So, insert, you fly upwards, periodically shoot enough stuff, and then you'll land again, and you take off again, shoot more stuff, take off, land, take off, land, take off. I don't know how many times you should do it, because it probably goes on forever. I don't know. I didn't play it for forever myself. After I'd, killed a sixth pilot by doing a loop-the-loop, I figured I'd probably best stay away from the Air Force for a while. So it's a bad rip-off of a bad game, which is kind of hilarious. So they've just made a bad game worse. It's a terrible thing to do. Now, I don't know much about Bernd Aalbach. It sounds very painful, though, whatever that is. Burnt my back. I'm not going to take the mickey out of him. He's just a guy. He did a game. That's not very good. I don't like the idea that the airplanes shoot little tiny black dots on a background that makes them impossible to see, and you just get killed a lot. And of course, the lives are terribly unforgiving in this, as with 1942. So there's no continue. It's just perpetual garbage. This is $9.95. Honestly, just if you have bought this for $9.95 thinking it's anything other than crap, I feel sorry for you. And weirdly, a 1943 actual version does come along, I think, later, which is probably hopefully better than all these rubbish ones. So 1940 poo, and this is now 1940 wee. So there you go. That's my thoughts on it. Don't bother with it. It is just, this took 2 minutes to build, I think, and it's a lifetime to try and get over the purchase you made. What about you?
Yeah, it's bloody awful.
It's terrible.
So soon. I put so soon. A follow-up to 1942. This
Too
must
soon.
be better.
It's too
This
soon.
must be better. So, like you, what I thought, okay, look, what do they get right? The ratio.
Yeah.
The screen ratio. That's it. It's good to see that they've set it down the middle of the screen and emulated arcade ratios for a vertical scrolling shooter. That I liked. Yes. Nice. That's it. This is so odd. Why does the intro of landing and why
so
as well?
long?
Why does it take so long? Why do they do the breakthrough thing? What is it with arcade conversions where they start you off the map, off the screen?
Yeah, that is
because
weird.
you're in black, you're in just a black bit, and then the blue bit scrolls down, like in Breakthrough where you start on yellow and the screen scrolls. What are they thinking?
They're not. It's called bad programming.
It is. That is true. Why is my role so overly animated? And the design, I presume they're high sprites because the actual animations on the ghosts. Because I thought I was shooting ghost planes. I thought that's what this was. I thought this was the memory. I thought this was the memory of 1942, and so all the planes had been shot down, and all it was like you were float. So in my head, this is like the haunted version. So you're going up this thing, and it's just ghost planes. And so this is the memory. This is like some kind of weird flashback of someone who's having sort of PTSD episode of flying back over it. and that's what I thought this was.
Yeah.
Because you can only fire. Why can you only have 2 bullets of yours on screen at once? Why? I should be able to keep pressing the fire button and bullets should keep appearing. No, because they've obviously not thought like, that's all we can render. We need to wait till they're off. So you can have some more. Use characters, soft sprite, software sprites. It's so odd. When I played it, I was like, oh, okay, we've got another 1943. The ratio came up, I went, oh, this could be interesting. Takes a bit of a while. The boat's not too bad, although it looks like it's made out of wood from the back end. It reminded me of the side of the old Atari VCS. Yeah. So I thought that I was landing on a massive Atari VCS at one point. And then I went off in a memory-fueled ghost plane shoot-'em-up, which, there's mileage in that idea.
Yeah.
Not this, though. Not like this.
Nope.
Because this is turgid crap.
There's no other way to describe it.
There isn't. It's
the only
so
way this
odd.
could be made more offensive is if Bern Albach turned up with a toilet tube, cardboard tube from a toilet roll in his arsehole, put it in your open mouth and just farted through it. Just did a real, a real powerful fart right directly in your mouth with a cardboard tube. And even then, I think this game would be worse. I think you might get over that.
And I wonder if Albach actually in English is owl bear.
I don't know. I just think Bern. There's no way this. I don't think it should have ever been released. I think Grieve Graphics must have stole it from his house or something.
It's a bit of a joke, isn't it? Because there is actually a proper conversion coming in 1988 of 1943,
which will be decent.
Battle for Midway.
I seem to remember one of them being decent.
No, I'm looking at it. I won't hold out much hope.
How do you get it wrong? But either way, this one is Pantaloons. Pantaloons
Indeed. Right, that's it. That's 1943, the year that won't go away.
No.
So we've got one more game left in this massive coverage of February 1987. So let's move on to that. And our last game is another Epix game. We have a second entry from Epix, and couldn't be more different from Destroyer if it tried, I think.
Yeah, totally different.
This is totally different. This is Championship Wrestling. So what's Championship Wrestling? Well, it's a wrestling game, clues in the title. So after the, muddy, should we say, rock or bop and wrestle, Epix throws its hat into the wrestling ring with Championship Wrestling, and you can choose from up to 8 wrestlers. And you have 2 players, so it's a so it's a wrestling game. You see it from more of an isometric view, don't you? So it's like a sort of from one corner is how you see this. So you've got 8 to choose from. Now I'm not a massive 1980s wrestling fan. I think you're more up on those kind of characters than me. There's probably one I can recognise because these are all kind of pastiches, I think, aren't they?
Yeah,
of existing wrestlers.
Yeah, they look in look. The names I'm not so sure about.
Not
really.
the names, but the looks. I mean, you've got Casey Colossus, who was Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, definitely.
Because he's got a blonde mustache and yellow pants.
Yeah.
Then we've got Purple Haze, Colonel Ruski, P. Vicious, Xanta Claw, which made me laugh, Zeke Weasel, Berserker, and H. Manslayer, who was like the native Indian with the headdress and everything, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, I can't remember the names now. Jimmy Snuka.
I'm pretty sure that these. I bet if you went back and looked at the 80s wrestlers,
they would be.
You would see.
Epics, yeah.
Yeah, you would see their what they were basing them on.
Yeah, totally.
And so essentially it's a wrestling game. You've got a practice mode and then you've got competition mode, multiplayer mode. And so the practice mode is you just practice, although it's not much for practice. I just got my ass handed to me immediately.
Yeah, you've got to be quick off the mark with that.
So it's like it went practice. I thought practice mode would be like, right, we're going to teach you how to play. No, it's going to teach you how to lose. Oh, okay, right, fair enough. So then I thought, well, okay, I'll take the championship mode. So the championship mode is your kind of standard. This game, I thought, had a lot of things in it which you would see down the line in other beat-em-ups. This has more in common with beat-em-up games than sort of, as in more arcadey things. So more like Tekken, more like Street Fighter. There's a lot of that in this because basically what you get is you fight through these characters in a much more presented way that you get in a kind of those in Tekken. So where you go up against the character and they come on and they say that snappy one-liner, blah, blah, and all those kind of games, Dead or Alive and all those kind of games down the way. This does that. So when you first go up, you pick your character and then you put your name in. The first bit loads up because it's a multi-load, and so the first bit loads up, and what you get is you get the sort of the ring, but there's two like quite well animated and well drawn like character portraits in the top left and top right, and they both sort of have little sort of stings of language, and there's a music plays over the both of them, kind of like what you get in those those later beat 'em ups. I thought that was quite interesting, and this plays like that because the first fight is quite easy, and then they get progressively harder as you move through. It's kind of like what we saw in boxing games and all that kind of stuff. But this sort of felt more in line with those later games. Anyway, once you've chosen all this, you get to the fight, you have 25 moves at your disposal, and the goal is just to try and pin your opponent to the canvas for 3 seconds. It's only once. I think the rounds are only 3 minutes long, so you've only got one round. You've got to pin them down. You can kick them, so you can do a lunge kick. There's loads and loads, and it's 25 moves, depending on what's going on at any one moment in time. And it's what this is. It's clearly based more on the US side of wrestling than the UK, because it would have been interesting to see like Big Daddy and Giant A-Stacks and then those kind of equivalents in this and Kendo Nagasaki and stuff. So that's that. The graphics are pretty good. I thought the sprites are quite well drawn. Again, I think there's a lot of sprites, so it does suffer a little bit from that Rock and Wrestler. No, not quite as bad in that bit of staccato animation. There's not enough sprite data, I think, to really animate these properly. The music's okay for the wrestlers, but there's nothing special. The in-game noises are all right. I thought this was just a bit like Rock and Wrestle. It's a bit better, but it's hard to control, and you're never quite sure if you're going to pull off the move that you want. You're actually attempting to try and pull off. It just felt a bit arbitrary if something would happen. There was one point where I had someone knocked out and they were on the floor, and I kept trying to pin them down, but it just kept doing a flying kick at them, which was completely useless because they're on the floor. Eventually, I'd managed to get round them and did a pin, but it took ages, and we just lost all momentum. And I was like, just pin him. I quite like some of the comments that pop up in the crowd. There's more atmosphere in it because Rock and Wrestle was really empty, wasn't it? There was no crowd or anything. Yeah. But this has and that other god-awful American, the boxing one, Fight Night. This actually has a really decent crowd, which sort of joins in and puts up placards and stuff and says, boo and things like that. I quite like that. This sort of has a bit more of a cartoony atmosphere to it, which is good and is nice to see. I just think that these wrestling games they're a bit finicky, and it's too hard to get all those moves out of 8 directions in a button. Just doesn't kind of work. And I wondered, like, we've recently played it, whether if they tried some kind of Uchimata style of control with the sweeps and the rolls and the moves and that kind of way, maybe that could have worked better. It's technically quite impressive, but it's just a bit bitty, and I didn't quite connect with it. I don't know. It just feels that it's just the controls are in the way. But also, and just as a final note, I found it impossible if I was pinned down to get out. It was done. You can never get it back up again. You were done. It's all right. They gave it 80%, which I think was, present. I think it's all right. I think maybe you probably maybe a little bit lower, but it's okay for what it is. I think it's it's better than Rock and Wrestle, but is there. How did you get on with your bout of championship wrestling?
I'm like you, actually. I thought this is a decent attempt at a wrestling game, all said and done, and it's got that Epic's kind of polish. This is Epic's, again, pushing themselves into the sports game arena, and they come back and do this kind of stuff with all the various California games and all the other games stuff. They get quite good at this kind of stuff, and they just about pull it off with this. And I say just about. It's by no means perfect. So I think the graphics are okay, but they're a bit compressed, and so because they're a bit compressed, the playing area of the ring is actually quite small, which compounds the kind of problems of the controls, because there's 25 moves that you can do, as you say. And I'd be buggered if I could do any or many of them, and certainly not on purpose. I'm not sure how or why. Some of them just happened, I think. And there was no space to maneuver in the game. It's not like the ring is kind of a big thing when you're wrestling. You've got enough space to run backwards and forwards and do stuff. And that's the one thing that Rock and Wrestle did really sort of convey, was that space. This
Yeah.
is a bit cluttered.
It's tight, isn't it?
It is. It just feels compressed, and I think that compounds the problem of the game is that it feels like more of a scramble than an actual game where you're playing an arcade logic. So you'd need to practice a lot, and like you say, the practice is actually totally unforgiving. It doesn't actually teach you how to play the game, which is really stupid. A real misfire, that. So you're better off putting it in 2-player and just, maybe doing that way or maybe just trying to figure it out. I think you might like this. If you like wrestling, there's enough razzmatazz, and as you say, that dressing around the game is really what really lifts this from just being kind of similar territory to Rock and Wrestle. So it lifts it a bit. I think because it's obviously a Pixar, an American company, I think, aren't they? So this has got, they're obviously a bit more familiar with the razzmatazz of the wrestling, pro wrestling in the US. So it has more of that in it. I mean, that's clear. And the presentation of the game and everything else is pretty good. That is what lifts it up. So I think that's why it got 80%. I think other than that, it would have been in the 60s had it not really had that kind of presentation around it. But, Epix did the same thing with the Movie Monster game. It wasn't a great game, but had all the presentation around it. They're pretty good at that.
Yeah.
And so this is just, just about gets away with being okay. I wasn't a fan of the game. There was an arcade game similar to this, actually, that played on a slightly bigger screen and slightly bigger real estate in terms of on-screen space. Can't remember the name of that now, but someone out there will probably be able to find it. But there was an arcade wrestling game of a similar kind. And there are, you can do all the different moves and everything. But if you haven't got the space to do them and you haven't got the joystick control, is actually super complicated. If you look at the control map in the instructions, I put the link in the show notes, and I'll put the link in in our show notes. So the instructions, it's a really complicated map of trying to figure out, press fire, but you're this far away, and then you grab them, and then once it's in this position, you can do. You haven't got time. You haven't got time to plan a move like that. It needs to be grab, do, throw, or grab, in, move. This is why games like IK Plus and International Karate and Way the Exploding Fist, that's why those games work. 16 moves on a joystick with that amount of directions makes sense, and that would be better to just do that. You don't need overcomplicated moves, I don't think. And I think that because they're trying to over-egg that pudding, it actually affects the way you play the game, and I think that makes it not greatly approachable for me. So I think it's nearly there. It's just, it's got the front end and it's got some nice touches, but other than that, I think it's just not quite there enough for me to get into it. So that's what I thought. It's not a bad game to end on though, because this has been a series of episodes. February. The issue of February with our 40 plus games, there's been some stinkers in there. At least this one's not as bad as some of the the Cobras of this world, or the Scooby-Doos, or the
Dredd.
1943s, or the Judge Dredd. So there's just we could list them all. I'm not going to do that, but
Please don't.
At least
It's a knockout.
At least this looked the part, and I remember seeing screens of this game in early magazine screenshots, and I remember thinking it actually looks amazing. And if you look in on the Games That Weren't website, there's actually an entry for this of an advert of a pre-release advert, which looks where they've clearly just drawn the graphics up in some kind of art package.
Okay.
But parts of it still do have the look and feel of it, so it's not exactly like that. But I think they did manage to pull off more or less what they aimed for. So just it doesn't quite get there in terms of its playability for me. But anyway, that's that's Championship Wrestling for me. So 80%, about right actually.
And that does our mammoth coverage of all the games from February 1987. But we're not done. We are not done yet. We have some crap verts. So we've got 3, in fact. So let's quickly go through these. Have you got them open? Have you got them?
Yes, I can see them.
Have you looking at that first one?
I am, yes. I'm looking at what can only be described as a 70s metal band in holding axes. And for some reason, he's dangling, looks like he's about to teabag a cat.
So this is the advert for Blood and Guts by Action. I've never heard of. Which I think Action, though, are the people who just released 1943.
No, well, that's not boding
So
well.
I think it might be the same people.
A barbarian decathlon does not sound like a good idea for a game, especially based on the It's a Knockout we just played.
No, it really doesn't it? I don't know what to make of this. So yes, this is Blood and Guts. We've got. I'm trying to sort of figure out what kind of artistic style this is. It's just airbrushed nastiness. What is it?
Well, I tell you what it is. It's anatomically challenging, is what it is.
We haven't seen muscles like this since Knockout and Amazon
muscles.
Warrior.
The guy's nipples are in the wrong place. He's got problems. That guy's stomach muscles are just weird. It looks like he's got some kind of stomach mouth, and his nipples like are too wide apart. Those nipples are too far.
They've all got 4-packs.
They've got 4-packs and ribbies, massive ribbies going on.
And there's so this is the advert for Blood and Guts. There's a stone in the middle with Blood and Guts carved onto it. Surrounded it are 3 barbarians of various attire. The one on the right, and it literally does look like Man of War or something, doesn't it? It's just horrific.
I just want to draw your attention to something because it's horrific, and that is his creamy horn.
Well, I was going to get to his creamy horn.
Why is his horn shooting cream? Why?
I don't know. But the one who's knelt down, have you also noticed that there's like a little ferret face poking out behind his knee?
He's got pink boots. Come on. The barbarians didn't wear that.
But the one on the right, so the one on the right is between his open legs is a cat.
Yes,
who looks terrified
because
he obviously just looks on his tail. But I would not be stepping on the tail of a cat when it's that close to my danglies.
Yeah, well, he might have torn its way out of his underpants.
That cat is going to have them.
Well, a cat looks like it's torn its way out of his pants because they look shredded. No.
Something bad is going on.
He's got a really little axe.
I know, and the guy on the left as well. He's really proud of his belt buckle.
That is a very shiny belt buckle. I mean, they've clearly borrowed the character, the 2 back characters there. I'm thinking, as much as this is bizarre, that's a heavy metal or Motorhead version of Conan, and then to his left is Mako the Wizard.
Yeah, buffed up beyond belief.
Buffed up and holding his creamy horn. That's disturbing me. It's dripping on the rock. It's dripping. He's got why is it dripping? What's it dripping with? Why?
He's just got he's got a horn full of froth.
Yeah, but why?
I'm not sure that sounds any better.
It's because he's obviously been blowing that on, and why is it spurting out white cream?
Don't know.
I don't.
Also, as well, look how he's holding his axe. He's holding it all wrong. His grip is the wrong way round.
Health and safety nightmare.
It's like that. It's just it's front on. He's going to have to swing that axe like that.
Well, have you noticed that the person who drew the underpants also must have drawn that rock because the rock's got frills at the bottom? Look, so
yeah, I think that's grass coming up.
I think he's just put frilly edges on things.
Oh, what is this? An ancient barbarian decathlon with all the violence and brutality you've ever dreamed about in a computer game. Did you dream about blood and violence and brutality?
No, I don't. I do like the stone with blood and guts carved in it. Now that I do like. That's nicely done. It didn't need the trio of 70s barbarian / rock band members, so it didn't need Black Sabbath during their barbarian phase to be involved. But
it doesn't need red on green. Doesn't need red on green text because it's illegible.
No, it doesn't. And underneath, is that actual writing or is that just a weird sentence of runes for some reason?
What, at the top and at the bottom?
If you look at the top underneath the third line of the text, it looks like it's just written in runes.
It is runes, yeah, but they're also right down the bottom left as well.
I wonder if it's a cipher and if it actually would translate something if you could be asked to decode that. No,
which I can't.
More anatomically challenging. I mean, his hair is, that mustache, honestly, just no.
And his right knee is ripe for the going.
Ooh, and it's all kinds of painful wrong that. I mean, there's a lot of shading in those cloaks and those underpants and stuff.
There's too much shading.
I know, and I don't. He's wearing a tunic, isn't he? And a Hessian tunic does not make you look manly. That's just saying that you need to go out and invest a bit more in your clothing. Never mind your gold belt. Get a decent tunic. The idiot.
Oh, there we go.
For God's sake, clean your horn. Clean it.
Stop it frothing over everywhere.
You're spilling it on the rock.
Yeah. Ugh. It's actually dripping, isn't it? It's mid-drip.
It's gross.
There we go. That's Blood and Guts. Up next, we've got another cracker from Microgen.
Oh, God.
So I got this because I thought this looks very, very similar in style to that stupid cop-out one we looked at.
Very similar, yeah.
It's the same thing, but this is SAS Strike Force.
Yeah. But now, I ask you, right, in a world where you can typeset, why would you draw the Strike Force? Because that's clearly been drawn by someone with a pen. I mean, that's just that isn't using a typeface or even a letraset book that you might have used when these. Because one of our Patreon members, Andy, I think, had pointed out that maybe some of these older crapverts were using, they weren't using the modern techniques that we take advantage of today. The usual desktop publishing software. And that clearly doesn't, because that SAS looks like it was sprayed on. The Strike Force looked like it was drawn with a biro and then coloured in.
Yeah.
And then the Microgen is clearly cut out badly and just stuck on with Pritt Stick. On top of an explosion, and then in front of that is just pasted a paramilitary person.
It's not just an explosion, is it? It's like the heart of the universe going off.
Yeah. You wouldn't be stood there with that going behind you. Your lungs would be liquid from the shock.
In the sort of cliche of the walking away from an explosion behind you, this must win surely, because he's not even walking. He doesn't even seem aware of it.
No, he doesn't actually. He's completely oblivious to the ginormous ball of fire, which is going to incinerate him at any second.
Absolutely.
That's the last selfie of that soldier.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No balaclava is going to save you from that that heat wave that's coming towards you.
No, I mean, the fact is that the fire's that close. I mean, the sonic boom has already happened, so he should have heard it, but clearly he's deaf. And the shockwave that comes out of that, by that point, would have liquefied his lungs and his eyeballs would have exploded. So at this point, by the time the fire's getting to you, that's the least of your worries. Which is probably why he's very casually just standing there. Very well drawn SAS guy, I guess, if that's what he is.
Is it drawn or is it a picture? I don't know.
Well, that's what I mean. It's very well drawn picture. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's either way. That's the best bit of it. The rest of it's just silly.
It is silly. Let's
Very
move
silly.
on, because we've got more Anko madness.
Oh no, Anko. They just don't do this stuff anymore, do they? Magic Madness from Anko.
It was the bottom one that got me, because it's Escape from Paradise. Why? Because read the blurb for this. Joe had created a paradise deep underground, but finds his route has been blocked by strange creatures with strange powers, and he must escape to survive. Joe has to move from room to room using any device that he can to help him reach the top and make his escape. But in the picture, he's running back in.
Yes, yeah.
He's running out from the island back into the... So it makes no sense. The complex is huge and the obstacles are too many, okay? But Joe knows that if he perseveres, he will escape and then run back in with his mate.
God. It's just, they do these really... I mean, he's got a very bad lean on, hasn't he? He's kind of... It's like he's going to fall over. There's no way around it. He's falling over. And then if you look at the top in the badly named Magic Madness, I mean, come on. It's not much imagination. Escape from Paradise is bad enough, but Magic Madness, where the acquisition of the 4 scrolls of magic. He hadn't even bothered naming them anything exciting. Nope. Apart from when you get Colo, the sorcerer can be challenged. I mean, come on. Caring's choice of weapons. So lightning fast action, caring choice of weapons and strategy are vital in overpowering goblins, skeletons, and all henchmen.
Another henchman, yeah.
There's no other thoughts being put to that game, goblins, skeletons, anything else in it? Oh, all the henchmen that are in that.
All the henchmen. What henchmen? All of them.
And then weirdly at the bottom you've got a bad advert for Voice Master, which is obviously some kind of speech synthesis tool. It seems really strange to have that on there. Yeah,
why? Well, I mean, if you're paying for a page of adverts, you might as well put 3 on.
Yes, absolutely. I love the way they've got the screen grabs pointing at the game they're from. Like you couldn't figure that out.
Yeah, the scroll makes no sense either as well, because it's sticking out on both sides as it goes in, which means that it's wider.
Yeah, and absolutely, and they've written on the outside of the scroll at the bottom.
Yeah.
So as you curled it in, that'd be on the back. Yeah. think of that, did you? A bit stupid that.
Oh, it's bad. Bad. I did like that one. Yeah, there we go. This is a long episode, so let's finish.
Yes.
Let's just round off this month, February, we've got a chart for you.
Hey.
So this is from Commodore User, what was going on. So the top 10, at number 10, staying at number 10, is Fist 2. Down to number 9 is 180.
Good.
Down to number 8 is Trivial Pursuit.
Okay.
Down to number 7 is Ace of Aces.
Mm-hmm.
At number 6 is Konami's Coin Op Hits.
Compilation, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Down to number 5 is World Games. These are all up now. So it's up to number 4 is Flash Gordon. Up to number 3 is BMX Simulator. And we're starting to see the rise of the arcade conversions, because in at number 2 is Gauntlet. Up to number 2 is Gauntlet. And up to number 1 is Paperboy. There you go. These were the big games that it says for Christmas 1986. So they were the big titles that were gouging us of our money.
Just baffling about that. If you look at the blurb on the right-hand side, it says at the bottom, Gauntlet came back to take the number 1 slot in the general chart due to massive Spectrum sales. I think I've seen the Spectrum version of Gauntlet. Don't know if it's any good. I guess it must be. No. Anyway, just thought it was an interesting aside.
Is there anything else in there? They sold 3.
I mean, it's the Commodore 64 chapter. Is it from Commodore User, you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's probably games that don't even exist in there, chat. They're weird.
Probably. Okay, so we've still got, March is a big old month as well. I think it's 29 games. So we'll see how we'll sort of split them apart. We'll have a look. What we got? I don't know most of these. We're actually going to look at Blood and Guts, Agent Orange, Chameleon, Dandy, the Double Take. None of these sound good. Erebus, Falcon Patrol 2. Have you noticed there's not a Sizzler or a gold medal among them?
No.
Footballer of the Year, Football Fortunes, Future Night, Handball Maradona.
I remember Future Night being quite good.
3 football games there. Football of the Year, Football Fortunes, and Handball Maradona. I'm hoping Football Fortunes is like Family Fortunes.
You never know.
But for football, so there's 2 football teams on either side with Les Dennis. It'll be Max Bygraves back then, wouldn't it?
Oh, God.
That'd be cool. Labyrinth. Oh, that'd be interesting.
Excellent.
Mutants.
Mutants. I remember Mutants being good.
Nosferatu, Ollie and Lissa.
Nosferatu's isometric, isn't it?
I think so.
I think it is.
No Pneumatic Hammers.
Okay.
Raid 2000, which sounds like an ant killer.
It does.
Repton 3. Isn't that a BBC conversion?
Yeah, it's got the. I think it's a bit like my feeling is that the Repton games are a bit like the
Boulder
Dash, but we'll see.
Yes.
Could be wrong.
Skate Rock, which I thought was a brand of music. Star Soldier, Street Machine, Terra Cresta.
Star Soldier sounds like a dodgy porno movie.
so does Terror of the Deep.
It does, yeah. And Tomahawk.
And Tiger Mission, Tomahawk, Tracker, and then the strangely named Zub. There we go. Right, that's it. That's February done. That's been mammoth.
That's been a whopper.
That feels like we've been doing this for like the last half of my life.
Well, it's crazy that we've done in 3 episodes equivalent of what would have been in last year. Would have been quite a lot more episodes, wouldn't it? Because we did 215 games, I think, in 1 year for 1986, and we've just done 40 games in 1 issue.
Yep.
So,
and then we've got another 29 next one.
Yeah, and not all of them good.
I'm gonna, yeah, that goes without saying.
Well, so the ones in the future we'll find out, but
find out.
This has been actually quite an interesting. I think we're coming to quite an interesting pivotal few moments in the coming months for the Commodore 64 in terms of original versus licensed, and I think we're going to see some. We're going to see some good licensed games. I'm sure of it, but I know that there's also some real turds to come. So
yeah. There is. Just one last shout out. If you do, like you said, if you like that interview with John Hare, find the rest on our Patreon. You'll also find other stuff as well. We're putting episodes out, so you can get all your feed from there now if you want as well. All the episodes gone on there without adverts. There's also by this point we will have it on there, so I'll say there's the interview with Chris Abbott, which you can find on our Patreon as well, and all that for exclusive interview with Chris Abbott, of course, yes, and all that for the cost of a $5. So if you're happy to do that, then actually not even a $5, it's $4.50. If you're happy to do that, head over there, patreon.com/Zapped to the Past. I think that's about it. I feel very tired. I feel drained.
Yeah, same.
And we will go away, and we're recording this before Christmas, but so now we're going to have a couple of weeks off. You'll have missed us, but we'll be back next week with more insights into the world of the Commodore 64. So as ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham Raddings.
And you have been listening to Zapped to the Past, and we will see you again next week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTothe, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.